Oh my gosh, that is all me. I had the microphone turned off. I had everything set up, but the microphone turns us off in between things. Thanks, Josh. All right, we have 8 people on. People were waiting for the live stream, and I have a bunch of quiet time at the beginning. Ah, Scott, what are you doing? All right, let's get this party started. Let's do this. Do this. It is our Christmas broadcast. Sweet, you can hear now. Yes, when I turn on the microphone. Magic of all the technical skills. That's why I'm here, fixing the tough stuff. Jenny is here. It wasn't you. It was you. It was all you. For those who don't know, Jenny is here. We were just at dinner, and that is why I'm late. It is all her fault. Are you watching from the car, or did you stop somewhere? All right, I still have my Coke Zero from remember not to stream and drive. Just a reminder to everyone who is crossing the country right now. All right. I am home. The kids have been fed. The dogs are playing. It's car live. I love it. Are you streaming on Claro? I want to know how well this streams in the car in Nicaragua. That is a good one. So, well, yeah, Tony's driving. I knew that because I saw him a minute ago. What's funny is you're probably just coming past me right now because I live on the road you just drove past. So we're going to get Jen on to Jennifer Miles, everybody. Say hi. She is in the comments. We just had dinner at Desperados, but the funny thing is I've been telling you guys that my friend from high school, we were going to be meeting up and getting dinner, and she's moving to Nicaragua, and this is her. So we first met in high school 34 years ago, which is pretty unbelievable. And we haven't seen each other in forever because I moved away from our hometown quite some time ago, making it rather difficult. I lost the ability to see people easily long ago, and it's really awesome that we, one, randomly connected here, but also were able to get together. So she is here, and hopefully, right now she's on a very quick trip, but I'm going to try to talk her into being on the show, probably her and her boyfriend, who's from here and who is driving right now, but who watches the show, see if we can get them to come on maybe, did you say May, perhaps? Get them to film some stuff and actually be on the show. That would be super cool, and talk about experiences in Nicaragua and what they're discovering and everything. That would be really cool. So let's hope we can talk them into that and find time to do it. So this is the holiday weekend. I am scrambling to do the live stream, as you guys saw, but we did one earlier, so that's pretty cool. And going to be heading out. We have a quince on Saturday. Logistics for the quince tomorrow, heading to Managua to the airport on Sunday afternoon, and then early Monday morning getting on the plane and flying Avianca to Houston. Patricia's here. Hello. They definitely need to be on the show. That would be an interesting perspective, right? That'd be really interesting, and for you guys to see. I'm pretty sure no one has ever been on the show who's known me as long as Jennifer has. Because like my wife has only known me 23 years. Paul has been on the show. He's known me now like 13. Kat's been on the show, but she's only like 5. Janina, yeah, sorry, it was microphone problems, but Josh got me straightened out. And May, Jennifer is coming back in May, so we'll get her on the show. It'll be awesome. Yeah, it's really funny. There's only a handful of people that I still know, my father obviously being one of them, who've known me longer than Jennifer has. Like, outside of family members, and even that, I only have a handful because I have a very small family, and I'm on the old side for my family. Like, all my cousins are younger than me. I don't have any siblings. My parents didn't have very many siblings of their own, so I don't even have that many aunts and uncles. All my grandparents are gone. So even with family included, the number of people who've known me more than 30 years is very, very few. That I'm still in contact with, maybe as little as, I want to say 3. And of people who know me from high school, Jennifer is right at the oldest because we had more classes together, I think, than anyone else that I took classes with in high school, because all the way through we had classes together. We took Spanish together, which is kind of apropos, but also science and math for sure. I don't think history, and then lots of random classes over the years for sure. And we were in band together, so we did marching band, we did regular band, all kinds of extracurricular stuff. So lots of connection from long ago, which is weird to reconcile with, when you're moving to a new country. When you move, especially when you move to like a really dramatic new country. Nicaragua is one of those, like, you kind of feel like you've started a new life. When you just move like to a new state, some people say that, like, oh, I'm moving to Chicago, I'm starting a new life. Yeah, because you're learning a new grocery store and you're learning a new, path to walk to work or whatever. But you're still kind of living the old life, mostly just in kind of a new town. But when you move to Nicaragua, from most places, you are actually kind of rebooting your life in many ways. For whatever reason you decide to kind of start over, it kind of does, because it's new language for most of us, right? New language, new weather, new culture, new social opportunities, new groups of friends, and just everything in life has a tendency to be new when you come in. We don't even bring stuff with us. So like the books that I own, the cameras that I own, the microphone, the computer, every little thing has a tendency to be something new. We either bought it to come here or bought it here. And the house is new, the work stuff we do. There's so many new things that it really tends to feel like a really strong life reboot. And then to have such a connection to not just my educational years, but to reasonably about the oldest ones I could imagine. I have 3 friends that predate high school, and that's kind of it. And I have someone coming in. Who's coming in? It is Paul. Did you want to be on the show?
Only my voice.
Only. I will point the microphone at you.
Oh, yeah, the microphone's good.
Yeah.
I can talk to the microphone.
I'm sure they can hear you. It's a shotgun.
Oh, hey, there you go.
You're on the quiet side. You're kind of like an ASMR.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I should be on the quiet side?
There you go. You're registered. Yeah, they can hear you fine.
Okay.
And Jennifer, that we just had dinner with, is on the show.
Oh.
In the stream. She can hear you. If you see the lights moving.
Do you have a light like that? Another light like
I have this one over here and that one over there, just the 2.
Oh.
And then the 2 studios.
Not one I can use, though.
What do you need to use it for? Like, briefly or?
Briefly.
There's a light. If you go into the gymnasium on the shelf, there's a battery-powered bright light. There you go.
Enjoy your show.
Boy, you guys are not very talkative tonight. Let's get some people going. I know it's late. Everyone's kind of sleepy. We have 11 people on now, so there's no excuse for being quiet. So our entire test earlier, for those who've been on in the weeks past, we've had several weeks of technical issues. So I'm going to record with my voice what is going on, so that later when we're trying to research it, you could be like, hey, Scott, you mentioned on the live stream what you did, so we know. Okay, so last week we had problems. Around this time, we were still in the bad issues time period, and this could still happen, right? We would have periods that would work, and then we'd have periods where the network would drop. Now, I do know that they worked on the network physically in the region this week, so maybe they fixed some actual cables that were having problems. But we have we're streaming a little bit higher quality this week. I decided not to turn it as far down as we did last week, so we could actually push it a little bit harder. I don't want to cheat and have it be not working very hard. But I did update my Atom Mini Pro controller software, which probably doesn't affect anything because it's just controller software. But I also did a firmware update of the Atom Mini Pro, so fingers crossed. Oh, Patricia couldn't type because she was busy loading her dishwasher, her favorite appliance in the house. And I'm monitoring, and the entire time we did the earlier live stream, which was only about 40 minutes, we had no network problems. And so far in this one, which is only 12 minutes, no problems yet, except for me not turning on the microphone. So we're looking like we're doing well so far. But those are the only changes I made this week. We're still using the Blackmagic Atom Mini Pro. It is just that we updated the firmware, which it was pretty up to date already. It wasn't old, but Desert Sunset says, thinking about going to San Juan for a year. Are they really going to put me in prison if I smoke marijuana in Nicaragua? So not realistically, no. Can they? They do have the option. I've never heard of anyone going to jail for smoking marijuana, but I certainly don't want to send you to jail and have you be like, Scott said I could never go to jail for this. It is on the books something you're not allowed to do. If you get caught with enough to sell, or even worse, get caught actually selling, you're definitely going to jail. I know, plenty of people who have dealt and gone to jail for it. So that is absolutely a real thing. But generally, if you are a tourist, they tend to be a little bit lenient, right? These are all tends to be. If you are only smoking it, it's not too much of a problem. And of course, if you're being discreet and smart about it, all those things add to very low risk. And of course, there's always some amount of risk anywhere. But mostly you're going to be okay. And obviously loads of people do it every day. The number of people that I know that do it and the number of people I know of that do it are quite high. And the number of people who get in trouble for it that I know of is zero for smoking it. La Marcelita is here. Hola a todos. Extraño participar en el programa. Pero mi verán pronto un abrazo. She sends hugs to everyone. She says hello to everyone. I miss participating in the program, but I'll be back soon. And she sends a hug. And we talked earlier about she's home from the hospital. This is La Marcelita, but she is quite sick, has a lot of medications, definitely going to be going back into the hospital, but we don't know when, and possibly needs to be escalated to Vivian Pellis, where they can do more testing than she's been at Manolo, she has been at Fonseca, she's been at Amoxa, so she's on at least 3 hospitals that she's been admitted to. There's other hospitals involved, but mostly they're reference hospitals. Like you go in, say what's wrong, and then they reference you to the correct hospital. It's a little bit different than we're used to in other places. So that's you wouldn't really count those. They're really kind of functioning like clinics. Like you go into the clinic and say, hey, this is what's going on, and then they can triage and say, oh, the thing that you have, this specialty is at this hospital, or you need acute care and the hospital with capacity to take you is this hospital, and then they send you by ambulance to wherever you need to go or whatever. So it's a different kind of system. Obviously, if anyone's confused, if you have a true emergency where you're like, I have to go in right now, you go to the hospital with an ER, and you don't do that process. But if you're like, oh, I've had this thing for a while, right? You go in and they figure out what needs to be done and then send you where you need to go. But it happens very fast. In the experience that we had recently, we're talking fast, meaning something like 15 minutes, right? So went in, said what was wrong, and she was in an ambulance and already being admitted to the correct hospital, or the one they thought was the correct hospital, in under 30 minutes total, including the time of loading the ambulance, getting there, and getting out of the ambulance. So they do hustle when it comes to these things. So it's been a good educational experience learning about a lot of that stuff. Unfortunately, it would be certainly better to learn about it under situations where it wasn't needed and we were just learning about it. So that is stuff we've had going on. We talked about that earlier, and we're planning on soon, because we talked about it today, putting together a GoFundMe, because obviously this is she's been basically incapacitated for pushing 6 months, and it's really dramatic, and there's a lot of very specialty care. It's very much fringe things, and the hospitals are really struggling with it, which is why they're in talks to potentially escalate her to bigger hospitals, or to more advanced care facilities. So that is a lot that's been going on, and I'm hoping there's definitely no way that we can do it in person prior to me leaving the country, because I'm heading out in days. And in the in-between, there is an unbelievable amount of stuff that has to be done. So I am essentially at this point now in continuous motion to get to the United States, which feels ridiculous to say because the flight is actually Monday, which is many days away. But between all the things that we have going on and preparing to go and all that, it's actually quite in motion. And so there's no way for me to get out and film anything or do anything during that time. So with that said, I think the best thing is going to be I'm going to try to get her to do some filming of herself while I'm gone, so we can put those together. Because as you guys know, you can send in video questions and stuff and video comments and participate that way. It's really hard to get people to do that, but once in a while it happens, and it's really cool to put you guys on the show. And she obviously normally is on the show in person and helps me film and assist with everything when she's feeling well. So it's a little bit different, but. Tony says wants to know when you're doing the Channel 4 and 11 morning shows. So I've done them in the past, and I can link to shows that we've done. When we will do more in the future is hard to say. It's a matter of and more likely what seems to happen is that we get passed around to new shows rather than doing old ones again. So hopefully sometime in the next 6 months, we'll get invited to do one of the morning shows again. Wink, wink, morning shows that are watching. Always fun to do. And partially it tends to depend a little bit on what we're doing. We actually were on, so Desperados, where we just had dinner, was on pretty recently on one of the shows. And I didn't get to be on because we were busy somewhere and I just couldn't be there. So I missed out on an opportunity there. But over on my other channel, we put the actual footage off of the morning shows, so you can check them out and see. I mean, it's relatively boring, especially because I'm speaking in Spanish, which it's interesting to hear me speak in Spanish, I imagine, but I can't talk nearly as much or as eloquently in Spanish. I'm giving much more basic information or whatever because it's, I make sense for the most part, but my Spanish is not the same for sure. I need some caffeine. It has been a long day. I've actually been reasonably up since 6 a.m. or so. It is 9 o'clock now, for those wondering. Okay, so this is important to note. When we get on really late, you guys are really quiet. Actually, it may be partially because we're going into the holiday. Like, we're basically in the holiday weekend, which is really hard to believe. And I have not yet, and I know you're all going to gasp, but I've not yet watched White Christmas, which means it's not really the holiday season yet. For those who want to know the things that are most important for me for holidays, okay, family, blah, 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 presents, blah, 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 Yuletide cheer. But beyond those things, eggnog or rompope, the eggnog of Nicaragua, plenty of rum in there, and Holiday Inn and White Christmas. Those are my movies. I don't like the majority of Christmas movies. I find them weird. I find any of the like Santa Claus stuff or the weird, like Home Alone was okay. Action movies for Christmas is okay, right? Christmas Story is okay. There's some stuff that's good, but for the most part, I like the old classics, Holiday Inn, White Christmas, full dance and song numbers, really good actors, over the top, less Christmassy, more like really great movie making that happens to have Christmas in it, and lots of eggnog. We did try hot buttered rum once long ago, my wife and I, and that is a mistake. That is a mistake. Protect yourselves. Do not have hot buttered rum. It is not good. It is not. It sounds like it must be amazing, right? Oh, hot buttery rumness. What could possibly go wrong? Well, let me inform you that when you heat up rum, pretty much it becomes vaporized alcohol, and when you melt a bunch of butter into hot rum, what you have is liquefied fat for your mouth and vaporized alcohol for your nose, and there is no component of what I just said that is pleasant. Absolutely awful. Patricia says, is Santa bringing you a new camera this year? How would I know? It'll be a surprise in his sack. So yes, Santa is bringing me at minimum 2 cameras this year. One has already arrived, and I have a photo of it that maybe I can track down from my father. So my father actually has the camera in his hands. I'll see what I can do. And a new microphone. Oh, I have a picture of that too. These are not stock pictures from the internet. These are actual pictures from my father's kitchen, where he has these cool items, and then another one is on its way there. So let me see if I can get these photos of these. Yeah, this must be it. So this is the new. Does it let me put this in the chat? It does not let me put it in the chat. All right, we're going to get the Atom software up and running, and we can put him in there. I don't know why I would put him in the chat instead of the video. Like, that was stupid. I'm a little bit tired. My brain is not firing on all cylinders, apparently. Let's see. So we don't need this one. So that is 13. And I'm going to put this one in 16. There we go. All right, so this is the new microphone that I have, and very excited about this because I want to get into, one, for like when we're doing shows like this, having the microphone sitting on the desk is okay, but this is a better mic with proper mounts and pop filter and all that stuff, and I have not gotten this yet, but I'm going to get a full like adjustable arm, so I can put it right in front of my face and at my mouth, and I'm getting a green pop filter for it. I really want an orange one, obviously, but there's no orange ones available. So because I plan to get a set of 2, and the green ones are on sale, eventually I want to get a color selection, and I know I want the green, I know I want the pink, and I know I want the orange, and probably the blue. And they have matching cables, and I just want to do it all up. So when I have a studio, it's all color coordinated and looks really cool. But I want the orange now because that's what I use for my stuff. But all the orange are sold out. So I need the pop filter now, so I'm just going to get a green one and save it for the future. So that is not ordered yet, but it will shortly. And that'll be on its way. So that's that microphone, and that will up the audio game for this slightly. That's not a big deal, but I really want to have that. I'm really looking forward to switching over to that. And then this is the camera that has arrived and a few other things. Yes, I got a charger for USB or whatever, but that is the white unit at the bottom there is the Sony ZV-1F camera, which is slightly different than my Sony ZV-1 camera that I have now, and just enough different that I think it's going to be extremely useful. I learned from the one that I already have what I like and what I don't like, and this one really does seem to fix the things that I don't like, so I'm really interested in playing around with it, so I decided to spend a little bit of money and get it. So that is waiting for me, along with a couple new lenses for this camera, which we'll see how much I use. I don't know how much will be used on this show. They're more for when I'm doing concerts and stuff. They give me more flexibility, but the one means that this camera can sit on my desk and do more close-up stuff that I don't have a lens that can do today. So that's actually pretty important. So that one, and then it's got a longer lens for doing concerts. So I think it's going to be pretty useful. Those are coming. And then I'm hoping to get the GoPro 13, but have not looked into that yet. And I did buy the DJI Pocket 3, and by I bought, I mean Jillian bought for me the DJI Pocket 3, and that will be one of the cameras that I use extensively for filming all kinds of things, and especially evening stuff where we're doing like bars and restaurants and just events at night, and we're walking around the plaza at night. Things that when it's dark, it gets a little bit hard to do. That I'm hoping to have solved with that. That has it's tiny, very portable, does a great job, and is exceptionally better at low light performance than the GoPro. The GoPro is basically horribly tuned for low light. It has a tiny sensor and uses digital stabilization, which is a great thing in bright light. It's like the ultimate combination. But when you're in low light, you want big sensors for low light, small sensors for bright light. Not that you want a small sensor, but small sensors are convenient, but they need bright light to do a really good job in most cases. The digital stabilization causes a blurry mess when you're in low light. And so the DJI Pocket 3 uses physical stabilization, an actual gimbal, and a relatively big sensor. It's not a big sensor, but it's a relatively big sensor. Much bigger, like I think 3 to 4 times the size of the sensor in the GoPro. So the GoPro is just extremely well tuned for bright Nicaraguan days, walking around in the sun and doing, shots around the neighborhoods. Like, it's kind of the perfect camera because it's fixed focus in the distance. So no matter what I'm doing, no matter what I get it's always focused on the scenery. So when we're doing neighborhood stuff, it's good. The Pocket 3 is tuned for, it has actual focus, so it's way better for when I'm taking up the majority of the image, and for when we're doing a lot of movement, because it's got that physical stabilization. But then in low light, it's going to be amazing. So I really am excited about how that's going to complement the equipment that we have today, and just really open up more things that we'll be able to get really good footage of, and have you guys, because I like the show to look really good. I know 90% of the time it's me standing in a beautiful garden, but that's kind of it. Right? And so that doesn't really matter. I mean, it doesn't hurt that like the colors are good and the image is crisp and it's 4K and it's a high bit rate and all that. That stuff is not a negative, but it really doesn't make the show in any way, that I think, right? But when we do go out and do neighborhood walks, when we do go out and show things, I think it's really important to do so in high quality to make it look really nice, because it helps make you guys be able to feel here, right? You're able to be more of a part of the place because it's not some blurry, shaky, messy thing. Like, you can really see what's going on. So I'm quite excited about how that's going to bring all new aspects to what we do. And honestly, it's amazing how often I say, man, I would film this, except it will look terrible. It'll be a bunch of work and it'll look bad. The Pocket 3 and the new Sony, both of them will handle low light well, and they will fit in my pocket. They're actually going to be easier in a lot of situations for me to just take with me places. So I'm much more likely to have a camera on me, which means I'm much more likely to get things recorded. So that is a big deal. And then hopefully the GoPro 13, that one has not been ordered. We will see if I'm able to get it in time. I have to get a lot of batteries and that kind of stuff. I got a new, replacement tripods, that kind of stuff, real minor things, other than the big purchases. Tusk says, hey Scott, good to see you. Good to see you, Tusk. A1 Savage is back. Hola, Scott. He was on earlier on the earlier live stream, the test live stream. Desert says, the beard looks good though. Well, thank you. Now, I am going to the barber tomorrow. Were you saying that because you heard about the barber tomorrow? The hope, if all goes well, I am going to film at the barber tomorrow, at the barberia. A friend of mine is going to film me as I'm getting my beard done at 2 o'clock. We're going to be doing it here in Sutiava. And they have already told, we are going to film, right? The shop has been informed that they are to clean up the shop and make it look good for the filming. So they're like, hey, yeah, we're going to do this. So hopefully this goes well. And it's for the quince. So it better turn out well, or I'm in a lot of trouble for the quince. other than that, it just grows out, right? My beard grows pretty fast, so it's not really a big deal if they like do something, but it will not grow out for the quince. Jorge is here. He says, hola, Scott, and hi, Marcella. And we have... and he's asking where La Marcelita has been. She has been, you're a little bit late. We were talking on the earlier live stream, and in this one, she has been in the hospital for several months and sick for about 6 months. And she did get discharged today, I believe. It must have been yesterday. I feel like she was discharged no, it must have been today. And allowed to go home. And is not, I'm losing complete track of days and everything. Early this afternoon, she was discharged from the hospital and able to go home. Is going to be doing treatment from home for the next little while before she has to return to the hospital again for more treatments. So that is what's going on, and we're going to do our best to get her onto the show to talk about that and the entire ordeal of what she's been going through, and in many ways how good they've been taking care of her, but also how difficult it is because it's a really, really severe situation. So she had open lung surgery earlier this week, and has been in recovery. So she went in Sunday morning for that surgery. They had to do 2 entire days of prep, at least 49, 50 hours of prep before actual surgery. Surgery went on for a really long time, and then post-op recovery was many hours, and then some time in the hospital to get back to functional shape, and is now home resting. And EG says, greetings from Texas. KL7 says, hola, Scott. Hey, KL, good to see you. And Patricia says, did Marcelita eat the hospital food? She did begrudgingly, and is sick of it. That much I know. As much as possible, she's had people bringing her food from the outside, but she really, really dislikes hospital food in general, partially because, as she said one day, this is unbelievable. They fed us the same thing yesterday. There is inadequate variety in the hospital food for La Marcelita. So that's been a lot of what's been going on. That's been keeping us all quite busy and concerned. And there's a lot of logistics that have to go on with her being tied up. She has children, which you've seen on the show. Her kids have been on the show before, and obviously organizing their care and everything is a big thing that's really taking a lot of toll on her as she tries to make sure they're in the process of moving to a new house. They're in the process of going into a new school. All things that were already in motion when she was already sick, but not hospitalized sick. So these are really major things to be taken care of while not feeling well. And I have this terrible itch on my eye. Wow. This is good content right here. So that's very stressful and a lot going on and a lot to be taken care of. So we are going to be, for those who missed it, I don't know when we're going to get this. We're going to try to set up a GoFundMe for her to help, because there's just a lot to take care of, right? Whether it's medications or getting her kids transport or food to make sure that their things are taken care of, or additional tests, because they're constantly doing more tests at the hospital. And the public hospital is free, and they take care of everything, including the food. But so there has been quite a bit of private care added in as well, trying to speed things up, trying to get some results faster, and that doesn't always work out. Sometimes the public is actually faster, but this is such an extreme issue that the public hospital is considering the idea of escalating to the private hospital. Now, they do get discounts. We think, our understanding is that when they do this, that they actually have a deal or something that they're able to get the private hospital to reduce the cost, so there's a better chance of people being able to use it. Not because the public isn't offering everything it can, it's that sometimes the private just has more specialists, more equipment, whatever. And so that is being mulled over. It is definitely not a decision, to the best of my knowledge, but those kinds of things can be important. So we're looking at ways to help her mitigate the. I mean, this is 6 months of being basically completely debilitated, right? So very, very severe. Wiggy says, Feliz Navidad, Scott. Hope you get visited by Santa. Yes, Samra and his Canta bag. Santa and his camera bag of goodies. That is my hope. This is the season of all my equipment being updated and replaced and refreshed and stuff. So, yep, fingers crossed that we have a lot of new and working equipment that I will get to play with while I need to get a new camera for Texas, or I have to take one with me. It's just a pain. Yeah, I need to have a new one waiting for me, so I don't need to carry one. That would be fantastic. We will see. Al Perry says, how's Jimmy doing? He's doing pretty well. So we need to get him on talking about his foot. There just isn't time before I leave, though. So he already knows. Like, I talked to him this morning, and we're going to try to get him on in mid-January, get him back on the show and talking about his first 2 months living in Nicaragua and adventures of all the places that he's been and what he's done with his foot and his in-home medical care, because he has a doctor. Because for those who don't know or don't remember, he sliced his foot open horribly on some metal roof sheeting, and didn't have a wallet or anything, and people just took him to the public hospital, had some pretty rough stitches done that he could have had done for cheap and home, but didn't know, and no one knew. No one seemed to have any of the logical connections you would expect, and then somehow managed to cauterize the wound by his foot going into a bonfire with a lot of metal, and really, really severely burned his foot. But he's in walking shape and doing stuff, and a bit humbler than before. So Jimmy's got some adventures to share, and we're looking forward to doing some road trips once he's back. He's got some ideas for filming and stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to get to that once he is here and can tell you some of his adventures firsthand. Edwin is here. Hey, Scott, Feliz Navidad 2024. Thanks, Edwin. How are things with you? Did I visit and record the Avenue Bolivar Christmas decorations, the altares? I actually never seen them called altar. Oh, yes, altares, of course. I've never seen them referenced that way in that particular situation. But so I've seen them, but I have not gotten to film them. There's a itty bitty chance that I will get to film them on Sunday when I am in Managua getting ready for my flight. But I'm in Managua getting ready for a flight with my family without a car. So the chances that I'm going to see them is extremely low, because I need to chill in the hotel. I need to order pizza from the new pizza place. If you need me to, I can look up what it is, but they're really good. They're from Tippy Tapa, but they have a new location in Managua, and I really like them. And I need to sleep because I have to get up super early and get my family over to the airport and off to Texas Monday morning. So I have no time to really go film. But more importantly, to the point I just made, I don't have a camera that's good for filming them because you film them in the dark. So my GoPro will be terrible, and I really can't go out with like the big Fujifilm and do that stuff on this particular trip. That's just not going to happen. So as much as I really want to go out and get them, and I want to go around the city and get all kinds of stuff, I have two big challenges this year, and at some point I had to just suck it up and admit that I have these challenges, and I'm not going to get them fixed this year. And one is I don't have the right camera for doing that kind of stuff. Okay, it's solved, it's waiting, it's been ordered, but I'm not going to have it in time for the lights. It is what it is. The second piece is that it is... I don't have a driver's license. It's expired, and I have a date to get my replacement driver's license in Texas in 11 days. That will be after the lights are down, and I'm not here anyway to film them. So I can't go out and just film things, nor do I have the right camera. It is what it is. I have no fix for that. So what is going to happen is I'm going to get both of those things solved this week, and for the rest of the year, I'm going to be doing as much as I can to film more low-light things, including cool events like taking Jimmy out to Barrio Bars to get him wasted, and you can see wasted Jimmy at Barrio Bars. He's going to be very excited about doing that. It's going to be a good time. So that is something we're going to do, and we'll get lots of good low-light stuff, and then we will address... the Christmas lights next year. I wish I could get them. I think it would be a great episode because there's a lot of neat altares to go get videos of, but I just can't pull it off. Elizabeth Vargas is here. Hola, buenas noches. Buenas noches a ti también. And Buddhist is here. Evening, Scott. Cojito in hand. Looking forward to great content. I don't know if tonight's a great content kind of night. It's a Scott is sleepy and drinking Coke Zero kind of night, but I'm doing my best. But I must say, Buddhist, I've had at least 4 Woodford Reserve whiskeys this week. So thank you for that. Every time I have one, I think of you and appreciate all that you do for me. Very much appreciate my Woodford Reserve breaks from life. That's when I'm my relaxation this week. I've had a couple nights where I'm just like, I need to check out, and I pour myself a Woodford Reserve on the rocks and pop on Star Trek Strange New Worlds and just chill. I very rarely turn on the TV for myself. I did this week watch with my daughter Liesel A Trip to the Moon, 1906, the oldest real movie pretty much out there. We then watched a few clips of different movies that were like, she's like, this is not a good era for film. But then we watched 1939's musical remake of The Wizard of Oz, the colorized one that everybody knows, which she has never seen and I've not seen in a very long time. And she was like, this isn't as bad as I thought it would be. Like, this isn't as bad as you said it was. I'm like, I don't know, it's pretty bad. But she was okay with it. We do cinema studies, so she has to watch old movies and understand a lot of that stuff. But nope, I don't know what I was going to say. So we watched that, and then we watched also from 1939, Babes in Arms with Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland, who also did Wizard of Oz. And that I enjoyed more than The Wizard of Oz. I'm not sure she did. But we had good cinema, history, and literature discussions about them, and that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that we get to do that together. So that's a really cool part of her education. Janine Van Lente. Hey, Scott. Feliz Navidad. We are in Nicaragua and absolutely love it. It is blowing all our expectations. Wow. Awesome. That's exactly what we want to hear. Where are you at? I want to know. And by the way, Jennifer, who posted earlier, also just been here for a few days for her first trip, and she seems pretty happy with it. She didn't exactly say blowing all of her expectations, but she seems pretty thrilled and is in the process of the planning of moving, right? And she is here still planning on moving, so it's at least coming across pretty well. EJ1692, hey Scott, any recommendations for how to keep costs low with short-term accommodation prices in Managua? I believe you when you say cost of living is cheap, but these Airbnbs are surprisingly kind of pricey. So yeah, so EJ, we have a lot of videos that I've done explaining the economics of why short-term rentals are super expensive. Long-terms are pretty cheap. But short terms, so the thing is that the cost of accommodations are low. And short terms can be low, but the thing that I'm sure that you can correct me if this is wrong, but it's you are having furnished short terms. It's furnished that gets you. And there's no way around this. The cost of furnishings here are equal or just slightly higher, like 1 to maybe 5% tops, more expensive than the United States. So if you have an expensive apartment like you do in the U.S., and X amount of furniture in it, you won't really notice, right? Like the furniture is this like background noise in the cost. And so when you're thinking of an unfurnished place, let's say an unfurnished apartment in the U.S. is $1,000 a month, and a furnished place is, we'll say, $1,200 a month. Obviously, you'll notice that price difference. You're not going to not notice, but it's not dramatic. You're not like, oh no, this isn't what I was thinking, right? But here in Nicaragua, it's easy to have an apartment that's $200. I have an apartment that's $180, right? 2 bedroom, 1 bath, very comfy, quite nice space. I'm not going to say I love it, but I like it a lot. And good landlord and all kinds of stuff, right? So at $180, if I was to put furniture in it, which I have, that cost to me is about $200 a month. So if I was to rent it without internet, without power, without water, right, just the rental and the furniture, it needs to be at least roughly $400 a month. That's double. It's actually more than double in that case, right? But it needs 2 beds, it needs all TV, all these things. Those things add up. And so here, a short-term furnished can really easily add 100% or more to the monthly cost of a rental. Now, of course, also you pay more. Like if you're looking at a 12-month lease versus a 2-month lease, you're always going to pay a premium, whether it's just a few percentages or double, right? It depends. But if you think about like hotel rooms, if you were to have a hotel room as the place that you lived and you rented it on years leases at a time and had to provide all your own furniture, a hotel room would be like, I don't know, $100 a month, right? It would be really, really cheap. But when you actually rent a hotel room, it might be $30, $40, $50 a night. Part of that's because it's furnished, part of it's because it comes with cleaning, and part of it's because you're renting it on such a short-term basis. And most hotels, if you go to and rent for a week or a month, they will give you discounts. Not super dramatic, but some for sure. And so short-term rentals have both. If you were looking at a long-term, so my lease is long-term, so I pay $180 for the long-term. But if I was to do that on a monthly basis, it might be $250 at least, if not $300, right? So if I was to then rent it out to someone, I need to collect $250 to $300 on that part, plus the $200 for the furnishings. So it's really easy to see if you're looking at a long-term and say, oh, $180 a month, boy, that's so cheap. And then your short-term is $500, that you're like, how do we get from 180 to 500? It's the same physical apartment, but that's actually the math of it. But if you're in the United States and you started at 1,000 and then you moved to short term, maybe you took it up to 1,200, and then you add 200 of furnishings, you're up to 1,400. So in one case, we've gone up by 150%, and in the other case, we've gone up by 40%. In both cases, you'll notice. But in one case, it's like, no, that totally makes sense, and you expect you have to pay extra, so you expect it. But in the other case, it's like, how could the numbers be this big? They actually are, because the dynamics are so different. So if you have no options for short term, you're kind of stuck. And obviously, Airbnbs are then a very high premium on top of normal short terms. But normal short terms are all but impossible to find here. But Airbnb has a lot of risk and overhead for people renting places out. So as someone who rents places, if you're getting it from us on Airbnb, it's going to be about 20% higher, just that. So if I had a place that I just did that math, right? 180 on the long term, 500 if it's a furnished short term. If that same thing was a monthly on an Airbnb, that 500 is going to turn into 600, roughly. 580, 590, right? Something to make it look like less than 600, but it's 600. So if that's what you're looking at, expect numbers that are easily a little north of triple the initial property value. Now, how do you mitigate that? One, just hunt around until you find a place that's a better deal. The other thing is, and I don't know about Managua specifically. I don't think any of this is specific, but you can go for longer term, unfurnished, and then provide your own furnishings. That means if you're going to move somewhere else, you can take that furnishing with you, and that's going to pay for itself over time. But if you're only here for, say, 2 months and then you're leaving and never coming back, that's not a very good solution. If you are doing that, what you can do is buy your own and then sell them when you're done. And that can work pretty well, especially if you know someone who's here who will help you after you leave, and especially if you buy used to begin with. If you manage to get good prices on used stuff ahead of time, then let's just say you go out and you find a refrigerator. Maybe new, the refrigerator was $800, but you managed to get it used for $600. Then you stay here for a few months, you use it in your apartment, and then you manage to sell it for $500. You spend $100 to basically use it during that time. If you were to stay, you have a refrigerator. Or if you were to decide to extend, you have a refrigerator. But if you go, you can sell it. I don't know that I would do that. I might just pay the premium at the Airbnbs because I want it all handled and I don't want any, just fewer things to go wrong. But those are techniques you can use to try to get it down. But the short-term market, and one of my videos is like the number one hardest challenge in Nicaragua, and it's furnished short-term rentals are extremely rare and very expensive in comparison to all other forms of accommodation. Hotels are a ratio cheaper than other places. that does not match the short-term rentals. The long-term rentals are super cheap. The houses are super cheap, but short-term furnished have this weird dynamic that creates the need for them to be 100 to 150% higher than the base property. Plus an incredible shortage of them on the market means that quite often their prices are then again augmented as people simply take advantage of market factors, right? Well, you've got to stay somewhere, and there's no other decent place in the area available. So why would I charge you $500 when people are competing for it? I'm going to charge $600 or $700 until people give up, and only one person wants to pay for it, and it's a whole bunch. So it's unfortunate, but there's not a lot of good answers for the short-term market other than be creative and find ways to make it not really a short-term market for you, which does not necessarily mean staying, but something to make it behave differently. Edwin says, last Tuesday I went to the Luis Alfonso Park in Managua Historic Center, and by about 6:30 I went walk from the park's west side gate towards the Chavez Monument and then go back. Yeah, so remember, I can't walk. I saw the doctor, and I have to see him again tomorrow. I have my foot being treated for tendonitis, so I'm trying to really reduce the amount of walking that I do, unfortunately. Tom is here. He says, Scott, I saw your take on JP and Amelia. How do people like this become so popular? You create content daily, and they hardly produce a new video. It's because the universe just likes bad content. No. So it's really, real quick, I'm just going to say to TJ, yeah, TJ, so far, knock on wood, the test earlier, 40 minutes, flawless. The test now, 52 minutes, flawless. Do I think it was the firmware update? I do not. I think it is that there was a network issue that has resolved itself, but so far so good. And I've been watching it pretty closely, and I turned up the bitrate slightly, so it's at medium instead of low. So it's at just under 5 megabits per second, which is not much, but neither the cache nor the monitor has complained in any way. So that's where we are. All right, so back to Tom and his JP and Amelia thing. So one thing that's a really big deal is that they are focused on specifically content for the mainstream, right? So I don't focus on, so this is just kind of, right, the way that I approach this. I have some content that I think is important for some group of people, not necessarily a big group of people, that I think is quite important. And I have a specific set of knowledge that I have from life that people may find valuable, hopefully. And so in this particular case, and there's other things I could do videos on, right? Like I know some things. I could teach you a whole bunch about like King's Quest video games or whatever. Teaching your kids cinema studies, right? Actually, I might do videos on that. We'll see. But so we have this knowledge base that I have, not because I chose Nicaragua because it would be a great place to make content. This is where, after years of doing things and not making content, I decided to live. Once I lived here, or once I started realizing I was going to live here, it was like, you know what, if I make videos about this process, that'll be cool. And I fell into it because it was always, I'm making these videos to share my life or to keep my dad up to date with my life. And I blogged before that for decades. So I have all this tradition of just making updates from my father. And so when I got into YouTubing to any serious degree, it was purely, I'm just using YouTube as a means to an end to share my adventures in Nicaragua with my father who can't move down here for health reasons. And so that was it. There wasn't any, I'm going to structure this to be good for YouTube. There's no, I'm going to study YouTube and learn how it works. None of that. None of those things that smart YouTubers do. And then I said, the content I'm going to make is a combination of this is my life and things I want to do with, I have this knowledge and access to stuff about Nicaragua, and I have this passion for it because it's been so successful for us. It's been such a good find. And I didn't make content the first time. And I only made, 20 minutes of content the second time. It was the third time that we came here that I'm like, I should make some content. Because at that point, I was passionate enough to move here. And I'm like, I'm excited to share this with people. And I have information to share. Not like I'm checking out a new country, right? I don't hate. Sometimes I get sucked into. But in general, I'm annoyed by videos where people are like, I'm going to explore a new place. And they walk around and they don't know anything about the place. And they have nothing useful to add in commentary. And it's just, people with too much money walking around exploring something. Now, I've had that complaint about some of my videos that I do that because I'll go to a new place. But it's not like a new country. I go to like a new street or a new barrio, and I'm like, oh, I don't know this street. Ooh, I found a new restaurant, right? It's a little bit different, but I get the irony that, yes, people have mentioned that I do that. So I totally get that. So I have not tailored anything for the purpose of the YouTube algorithm. I also only marginally do anything with thumbnails to do that. We don't put any real effort into editing or doing anything to make the pacing of the show be YouTube-y. We don't do length of show, or we don't do any of the studies. We don't adjust the show really for audience response. There's a couple things like longer episodes, which are generally easier for me to make, outperform short episodes, which are actually harder to make in most cases. So I don't shorten them because the long ones perform better. So I do make small adjustments that are very easy to make based on the show. Oh, when it's blurry or the audio's bad, yeah, I don't want to watch it either. Okay, so I make sure that the audio is cleaned up. And you'll notice, like 2 years ago, the average audio was okay, but it was not great. And now the audio is quite a bit better. And I'm about to get a new microphone and new audio processors and make it a little bit better yet for some episodes. And I'm about to get a better camera, make it a little bit better yet. And I'm always happy to go out and improve what I'm doing because I'm not very good at it. So it doesn't take very much to do these little bits of improvement. But all of that is basically like I'm making a show of just what I think I should make a show of. And I do think the content is valuable, but I do nothing for the purpose of making money from YouTube. JP and Amelia do exactly the opposite. Whether they went to a place initially for the purpose of YouTube or not, they went to, so Nicaragua is one of the least popular places to make a YouTube show. Right? There is nobody searching for it. Nobody knows what it is. And my job has to be a nonstop job of re-educating people of the same thing over and over again, because every new person is hit with many of the same new things. Wow, this isn't what I was expecting. Wow, how does this work? Wow, this is, right? Like there's so much shock all the time that we're just constantly doing that. And no one's searching on it. So I can make the best show about Nicaragua ever, and the total number of people that are going to come watch it is very few. Of all my episodes, the number one episode is the one where we went to Jinotega and we had 23,000 views. That's a very small number compared to a lot of channels. And we have tried a lot of different content where we're like, let's see what this would do. Let's see what that would do. And at the end of the day, no one is searching on this content, so it's very hard to get it out for someone to discover to then watch. Because even if YouTube puts it in front of someone's like, I don't have an interest in Nicaragua, so it doesn't matter how cool the thumbnail is. I'm not going to put like fake things in it. I might stretch it a little bit, but it's basically I'm walking a barrio. I'm talking about residency. So those are not things that get very many people most of the time. And I'm not selling fake things. So JP and Amelia went to Ecuador. This is one of the failure countries, right? Costa Rica, parts of Mexico, Ecuador, these are Thailand. These are the places where people go when they didn't do their research. These are the places that have droves and droves and droves of expats and high failure rates, really unknowledgeable people. Of course, they also get knowledgeable people. They also get people who do their work. But if you're someone who has not done their homework, if you are someone who is not aware of the world and is going to do a relocation blindly and screw everything up, you are essentially guaranteed that you're going to be in Mexico, the DR, and those two are not super likely. Costa Rica for sure, maybe Panama, definitely Ecuador. Like those are the places. So because nearly all the worst people, worst meaning just not going to be successful as expats, not sure why they're expatting, don't know what to do, and don't bother doing anything, that is where they're going to go. So they have a massive audience of people who need help, who are easily duped, right? They are an audience who has set themselves up for bad things. My audience, of course, we can get someone who's not done their research and is like, I heard about Nicaragua, I want to learn about it. But most of my audience has taken the time to be aware of different countries, been willing to think outside the box, is not just going with the flow, is willing to push back on people giving them misinformation, or at least question the world, is looking to do something unique, and so forth. So my audience, because it's Nicaragua, and because I'm giving honest information, is very much self-filtering to being a good, healthy audience. People who could move to a country and generally be successful simply because they're a little bit smarter, more diligent, more common sense, or whatever. They have a content type that panders to the clueless, but makes them feel empowered a little bit, kind of like Kara and Nate, but is highly searchable because it's totally tuned for people who are clueless to run across them, and then they make outrageous amounts of money by selling sight unseen things. And so as a business model for people who are not successful business people, who move to a country out of desperation, who are essentially failed expats, who didn't do their own research, right? They've talked about it recently that they really don't know what they're doing, which isn't a bad thing, right? Take your chances, you learn as you go. They did YouTube as a business because they desperately needed to make money from it, and so that's what they're doing. So every single decision they're making is, how do we make our channel get more viewers, do more things? And so of course it's growing. If I decided that was what I wanted to do, maybe I wouldn't be as successful as them. They do a really good job at that stuff, right? But if I was to decide I want to really cash in on doing the YouTube thing, well, the first thing I would do is get out of Nicaragua, right? This is definitely not where you make YouTube for this. If I was making like video game videos, yeah, sure. But if I'm making this, no, this is dumb as a business model. I could go to Costa Rica very easily and, I don't know, tenfold the audience in 6 months, right? Easy. I could go to Ecuador. I could go to Mexico. I could go to Thailand. Any of those places, just changing which country I'm talking about will instantly just blow my numbers out of the water. And then if I switched the way that I made it to cater to promoting videos rather than just having a surplus of information and dealing with lots of topics, I'd be able to, that actually gives you a bigger audience in a lot of ways. As I say, making a daily video, that is not a good way to get an audience. It's too much. There's a lot of things that make the channel good. Like, I have a very different audience, and I love my audience. I don't want to trade my audience for a higher income audience, not meaning per person, just a bigger audience that is going to pay me more money. I don't want to do that. Their audiences are not as good, right? Like, it just is. I mean, I'm not saying that their audiences aren't welcome here, just they don't have the average great discussions and types of people that we have. And so we just are going for different things for different reasons. I have a job, I have a business. I'm not using YouTube to pay the bills. I'm not on here because I moved somewhere and was destitute and didn't know what else to do. And so I think it's pretty natural. It's just unfortunate that good, honest information doesn't produce a really large audience, but it doesn't. So, if you ever heard of, newspapers using sensational headlines and maybe pushing the boundaries of what is real in order to sell newspapers, well, that's how a lot of YouTube is. That's how the world works. People really go for that stuff, and so they produce content. They stop and they think and they research, I assume, what content is going to get a lot of views, and then they create what that is. I do not. I have very little consideration for what will or will not get views. I basically answer questions or go out and discover things and share the experiences that I'm having or share the information that I have, whether or not it is heavily viewable or not. So very different approach that is going to net very different results. Edwin says, to see the altares south of the government buildings intersection 3rd and 4th Southeast Street that I didn't make it to see when I was with my family on December 7th from the waterfront at Plaza Nicaragua. Janine says, currently in Granada, spent time at Laguna Apoyo, Mombacho, and Ometepe already, heading north on Monday. Awesome. Unfortunately, Janine, I will not be here. I'm leaving Monday 6 a.m. from the airport to fly to the U.S. for the holidays. But glad you're having an awesome time. That is really cool. Keep us up to date on your adventures for sure. A number 1 says, Janine, oh, that is so great. I wish I was there now. I swam in Laguna Apoyo. The water feels so good. I don't know. That water is cold. It's nice, but boy, is it cold. Edwin says, on Monday will be the 52nd anniversary of the 72 earthquake that made made Managua disappear. TJ says, I wish there was a way to incorporate others on the show like an OBS. Yeah. I wish I had other people here to be on the show, right? I need to get like Elton from Immense Coffee, because sometimes he's down here. Just get him to come in the studio. That's why I want to get 2 microphones so we can sit, adjust, or we can turn the camera around and use the other side of the studio or whatever. Plus, we've got the colorful walls. Like, I've got ways to film in here as long as we have a little bit of planning. Edgar says, Hola, Senor Barba. Is that me? I'm Senor Barba? I am. But I'm seeing the Barber tomorrow. The Barber of Sutiava. It's like the sequel to the Barber of Seville. Bum, bum, bum. Janine says, spending January 2nd to the 9th in the Leon area. Are there any special events going on during that time? That's a good question. I'm not sure there's any events during that time. That's a tough one. I'm not sure. So you're leaving on the day that I get back. Chris says, Scott, only in my opinion, which of these is better, but only that I would think so. If anyone else agrees, then we have to rule it out. A 401k or a Roth 401k. Okay, so quite honestly, I don't know. Generally, I like Roth IRAs better than regular IRAs, but it really depends on you. The reason that the government gives you these different options under most circumstances is that they are tuned to be roughly equivalent on average, and they want you to be able to modify your life or pick the financial vehicles that are most well suited to your life or your life expectations or your risk aversion. Things like that. And so generally they're all good-ish. And it's going to come down to exactly what you have offered, what you've had in the past, what your plans are for the future, what you want to be able to do. I have my mustache is driving me crazy. So it's challenging to determine which ones are going to be best. But for me, and this is one of the reasons I don't know, I don't have a 401k. I do, but it's like an old one that I don't use. And I have no IRAs or Roth IRAs. I have no retirement accounts. I never have. So it's not an area that I'm familiar with. Alton says, hey, Scott, I've run into a problem while investigating flights. Spirit says they may require proof of return in order to board a flight to Nicaragua. Have you heard of this? So, yes. So, one, that is an automated thing on their website that does not consider where you are going. That is all international flights when being booked through Spirit. That pops up. So, the fact that it pops up is meaningless. However, we do have a number of reports from basically every airline that this can happen. So let's talk about this. So I have a number of videos that have gone into this. So you can go look those up. But I'm going to give you the information now, so I don't know why you would. But if you needed to prove that I'd said it before, you could. So there is absolutely no proof of forward needed in Nicaragua. Any airlines that claim such, completely fabricating it. I do fly Spirit often. I've never once been asked for that. I may look like an authority figure, and they may know better than to play that game. Maybe that's all it is. I have, however, had lots of people I know have many airlines, and including one person who did say that Spirit did this, where they faked that you needed that stuff to come to Nicaragua. Basically, every airline I've heard of that comes here has tried to pull that. Now, it's completely fake, but there's no consumer protections. Most of those airlines are American, so you are out of luck. They own you. You do not have the right to fly in America. You do not have right to discrimination protections. You are in the no man's land, basically. So if they decide you're not going to fly, you're not going to fly. And they don't need a reason. They may get in trouble later, much later, very little trouble, and you'd better have a really good lawyer or you're just not going to be able to pull it off. But it's like that, right? So Spirit is warning you that there could be problems, and they want you to be prepared ahead of time. So in general, you don't need to worry about it because I use Spirit all the time. And for example, I'm flying back on Spirit in January, and I don't have an onward flight. I have no anticipation of needing an onward flight. I just came down on Spirit April, and it said that, no problem. Right, so I do this regularly, and it's not a problem. And I know lots of other people use Spirit regularly, and it's not been a problem. I had one person, I don't know who it is, claimed it was a problem once. Could be true. It also could be someone pulling my leg. Right, but so I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it happening. But obviously it could, and I do know for sure many airlines do this. However, there are standard procedures for dealing with this. My wife is the better one to speak about it, but Eric from Generic Expats, which his show is now Living Abroad with Eric, I believe. He's on the live stream quite often. He has a video that he did explaining how to use a service for this. So there are services that will go out and buy a temporary ticket for you. You can show it, and then they immediately release it. And then you pay like $10 or something. And it's an unfortunate tax. And what a lot of the airlines are doing is either trying to bump you or they're trying to get you to buy an extra ticket that is not needed. In the US, there is a way to buy tickets where you have a guaranteed ability to return it within 24 hours. This is where my wife knows exactly how to do this, but she does it all the time because quite often we fly into Costa Rica, which does have this requirement. And instead of faking that there's an onward requirement, they will fake what that onward requirement is, not Costa Rica, the airline's taking you in. And so you'll have an onward ticket, and they'll be like, you have to have an onward ticket. And you show it, and you're like, here it is. And they'll be like, oh, that's a bus. It has to be a plane. You're like, that's not the rule. You just made that up. And then you get a plane ticket, and they'll go, that's with a different airlines. It has to be with us. And you're like, once again, a rule you made up. But once they're lying, what are you going to do? So there's ways to go to the airlines, buy a ticket, get on the flight, and immediately once you're on the flight, cancel the ticket and get your money back. And so that's what a lot of people do. And of course, the airlines make some money by people forgetting to cancel or whatever. So be really diligent about it. But that is all you can do. This is a situation where airlines have you over a barrel, and the governments are not protecting their citizens, and they're not protecting travelers in their countries. But it's completely on the airlines. It has nothing to do with Nicaragua. They would never pull that in Nicaragua, right? I dare an airlines to pull that on me on Nicaragua. I will make sure that becomes a problem. But then, I can't imagine them doing that. But in the U.S., they will do it a lot. So be prepared, but also don't be worried. Red Dog says, please continue as is. There's way too much bad info out there. This channel is refreshing. Thank you. Nicole says, Roth 401k has my vote. I would probably go with Roth 401k. That seems like the better choice, but I don't know enough to really give good advice. Gene says, no worries, Scott. I think we'll be back soon. Good to hear. Glad you are having a good time. Goobs Sant is here. Hey, Scott, how are you? I am well. How are you doing? I am a little bit dehydrated. I actually managed to have a beer today. It was very nice. I had a Quiniento Noches, which is a nice change of pace. It's very rare I can get out and get a good draft beer, so enjoyed being able to do that. Chris says, I have written you twice about sending you the pictures of my apartment in Venezuela, but the message appears to go away. I can only think it's because I'm adding your email address. Yes, that is correct, Chris. You cannot put email addresses into the chats. That's a YouTube rule. Anytime they sense a URL or email, it's an insta delete on the comment. I can write my email here. Use my whatever email you typed in last time. It seems to have never gotten to me. That's the same email, just a different address. Don Timoteo is here for the 401k question. Both is usually best, depending on your income. You need to do the math. Math is really the thing. Math is your friend. Contrary to what elementary school beat into you, or out of you, depending on how you look at it. It is 10 o'clock. I guess it's legit that I'm tired. That's okay. But it was nice. Got to go out to Desperados this evening, hang out with my wife, who we're always very busy, so we get limited time to hang out, and to hang out with Jennifer and Tony. We had a really cool evening. Too bad it wasn't able to be longer, but they have a long drive. They are watching the show on their phone in the car, though, and we have a lot to do with the travel coming up. So, and we do not have our tickets yet to get between Texas and New York, but hopefully that's a tomorrow morning thing, along with many other tasks that have to be done tomorrow. Man, and taking my daughter to her foot doctor appointment in the morning, and Marcella's kids are arriving for the quince, and yeah, it's a lot we got going on. I'm feeling the Christmas exhaustion coming already. It is the holiday seasons are. Our season is a tiring one, but who does not enjoy a Yule log and the Christmas tree and all that stuff? We did not decorate this year. I just realized we wanted to. We talked about it. We have a Christmas tree and decorations, and I don't know how much. It's funny. My kids are very artistic. I don't think they like to decorate very much. They like doing like the gingerbread houses and stuff, and we're gonna go to Texas where it's gonna be like overload of Christmas stuff. So maybe that's the game plan. We're just avoiding it at home because we're going to get it there. But it's weird, being here, and Christmas is so different, and our circles don't really talk about it. So when you're in the U.S., when we visit the U.S., when we talk to people in the U.S., there's so much like Christmas, 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 Christmas. And here, it's really easy to forget that it's the Christmas season and Christmas is going on, and of course the hot weather, right? I'm from New York, so Christmas has to be cold, like legit cold. And when it's not, it just doesn't feel right. And it has been chilly this week. We got down to 64 degrees, but tonight's not going to be anything like that. Tonight is going to be 21, which is, comfy, but not cold. So I have questions coming up in the community, and while you guys are quiet, I'm going to check them out. And oh, wow, we suddenly had a jump in the number of subscribers this evening. We had a very slow day where nobody was joining the community, and since I left, a lot of people have oh wow, someone just posted, I'm Romanian, moved to Nicaragua. That is pretty cool. I lived in Romania for a while and then moved to Nicaragua, so I get it. Romania gets very, very cold. Somebody asked me a legit question. I can't find it. Nope, I cannot find the thing that someone asked me. That's weird. So it's really hard. Yeah, anyway, can't find what people were saying. All right, here we go. Feliz Navidad, everyone. Leaving the chat as we have a very early pickup to kayak the Isletas. Oh, that'll be fun. Janine, enjoy your trip. I'm so glad that you're able to come and visit and that you are finding it to be even better than you were imagining, which is pretty awesome. So, very cool. Chris, I keep watching the email just to see if anything comes in, but there has been absolutely nothing. I have no idea what's going on, but maybe the pictures are too big and they're beyond the limits of the email system. Email is not generally great about big pictures. If you send me a link to the pictures, that's more likely to work. But I mean, we definitely send pictures around all the time from the email. The email's pretty robust, but Janine says thanks. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Enjoy Granada and have a good time in Leon. And make sure you hit the beach and everything and check it out and do the tour of the cathedral and go check out some of the museums. We have really good museums here, but I just don't know of any events. I would know better if there were events if I was going to be here during that time and maybe have to go out and film them. Don says, does Leon have a lot of Christmas decorations? It has Christmas decorations. I wouldn't call it a lot. It's a medium amount at most. It is definitely not like Managua. Managua has a lot. Leon is just like normal-ish street decorations. Like, yeah, obviously Central Park has a tree and stuff. But this is the Higantona season for us. We have a lot of that. And Jennifer has arrived at her resort, enjoying the live show. Data worked great the whole way. That's really impressive. That's awesome. So they just drove whatever that is. Yeah, that's about 2 hours. 2.5 hours. Tony did drive fast. We know. Tell Tony we know. But they just got to their place. That is, I will let my wife know right now if I can find her. Awesome. Well, Jen, enjoy your evening. Tell Tony I said hi, and hopefully he did not get as sick today as he did yesterday. And get some sleep. You got things to do. Edwin says, for U.S. residents, the new Sonic 3 the Hedgehog movie will come out tomorrow, but in Nicaragua it will come out on the 25th, next Wednesday. Okay, well, that's interesting. I had no idea that there was a Sonic 2. So that there was a 3 is quite shocking, I guess. That's I always find it weird that they release them at different times, because doesn't that encourage people to find out what happened or to not watch it or whatever? Like, it just, I don't know. I've never understood the logic of that for whatever reason. Anyway, yeah, Don, I was saying the decorations. We have, stuff in the street, and, little bit here and there, but it is quite minor overall. So, yeah, no, I wouldn't describe it as a lot. Well, it's not bad. And sometimes I go out to, so the square has some, and Ruben Dario Park on the southeast side of the city by the stadium has some. Maybe they'll do a little bit more this year because of the stadium. Who knows? How many of you know that the new American League series of baseball is coming to Nicaragua for the first time ever? TJ, did YouTube delete my message about Gettin Ward ticket? I'll go look, TJ, but that does not sound familiar. So it might be buried somewhere, or it may have been deleted. But I'll check what is held to see if it's in the holding. Nope, it is not in holding, but that only shows me things that YouTube thinks I should moderate. If for some reason it thinks it's more serious than that, it will not show it to me at all. So that's possible. No idea, but I have not yet come upon it. It also sometimes just takes a while. I'm scrolling to see if I see you. Chris says, I think the 9th time was a success sending pictures. I have pictures. There we go. There they are. Well, the view is nice. Cool. You said 16th floor? That is a good-sized city out there. Wow. So Chris is sending pictures of his apartment in Venezuela. TJ says, it's the website I use for the return ticket. Oh, it's his return ticket one. Oh, TJ, did you try to put it into the chat? That is, all URLs and emails are automatically blocked. It won't tell you. And it doesn't check what it is. It just blocks any message that has a link in it. Edwin says, I want to go to the movies for its premiere, but the problem is my 3-year-old nephew, bad behavior, and also budget, as my mom has spent money for Christmas tree and lights, and also the Christmas Eve big dinner. Brent says, yeah, you guys are still going? Thought I missed the stream. No, Brent, we took a few hours off, and then this is the real stream. We did a test earlier. And by the way, for everyone, and TJ especially, we're at 90 minutes, almost exactly, and 100% no problems so far. So we're far from knowing what has been wrong in the past, but everything is working. But we tried so one of the theories is that we're streaming too much, and so TJ and I tested last week by taking the normal stream is round about 3 megabits per second. Right now I turned it up to about 4.7. In theory, people would recommend doing like 6, but to see what we could do, we tried turning it up to 10 and hitting the network with other things at the same time. And last week we had no problem whatsoever when we were testing that with OBS, but when we tried it late with the broadcast board and it all worked, but during the actual stream it didn't work over and over and over and over again. So it's super frustrating. So we're trying to figure out if it's a temporary network issue that we don't have control over, if it's some piece of equipment we do have control over, if it's so we've got new firmware or whatever. But so far tonight it has been rock solid. Edwin does have a point. I do enjoy going to the movies here in Nicaragua far more than I enjoy them back home. I kind of enjoy everything here more than back home, so I mean that's just life makes me happier here, I guess. But I feel like going to the movies here is a lot more like going to the movies when I was a kid, and feels a lot more like a throwback or a comfort experience, if that makes sense. Like there isn't all this fancy stuff. It's not restaurants. It's not doing anything different. And when I was a kid, maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but movies were relatively affordable, and getting snacks at the movies was relatively affordable. And maybe that was because it wasn't me paying for it, and my parents were paying for it, and it actually was pretty close to what it is today. That's possible. But growing up, I remember at some point when I was like in my early 20s, movies seemed to go from something I would casually go to something I really needed to save up for. And that made them a whole lot less entertaining, because it was like, this has to really be good, instead of I like going to the movies, so I will pay to go. And when I would go to the movies, now I had a cheaper movie theater, but it was a movie theater that I enjoyed going to in Rochester, New York. And I think I was still going there in the early 2000s. It was $1 to see a movie, which of course is like $3 today. Not quite, but pretty close. And that was, hey, let's just go to the movies, right? Like, it was cheap enough that you'd be like, I want something to do this afternoon. Let's go to the movies, right? It's air conditioned. You can buy some popcorn, and the popcorn wasn't crazy, right? It was everything you did was affordable at the movies, and so it was just a generally pleasant experience. And then at some point that went away, and movies seemed to jump from $1 a ticket to like $12 a ticket, and then just kind of went up from there, and it became this just doesn't make sense. And then the food went up, and then it became like restaurants and alcohol, and I like restaurants and alcohol, clearly, but it completely changed what the movies were. And wait, Edwin, tomorrow will be the last broadcasting for National Channel's morning shows. Channels 2, 4, 5, 6, TN8, 10, Wait, why is it the last morning of all those morning shows? Fill us in, Edwin, because I've been on some of those morning shows, and we were talking about them today, and I definitely want to know more about what is going on. Because that's a lot of morning shows going off the air. And is it just that the channels aren't very popular because it's legacy TV and no one watches, which has been my kind of theory for a while? In which case, are we going to put together the Nicaragua online morning show? Trust me, we've been talking about it. But Edwin says, only Christmas films like The Grinch, Polar Express, Home Alone 1, 2, and 3. Streaming services help kill movie theaters. They did. I wonder how much streaming services did versus... Because for me, right, my tipping point was about 1994. I was 18, and at 18, I bought better everything than the movie theater had. I had Laserdisc. I had amazing, truly amazing stereo equipment. Like in 1994, I topped $10,000 of equipment. I really understood audiophilia, and so I had amazing audiophile everything. Really good wires, really good speakers, really good amps. Sometimes I bypassed preamps. I had monoblocks. I had really amazing Laserdisc sources with high-end DACs and all this stuff. It was really, 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 really good. And for 1994, and every one of my friends would come over to my house, and I collected movies. So I had a massive collection on Laserdisc of obscure movies, of action movies, of classics. So someone might come over and want to watch obscure Hong Kong cinema or Jurassic Park, right? But with the windows shaking and your whole chest compressing from the sound and every little tiny detail crystal clear, things that I don't know anyone who gets today. And it was just amazing. It's because all broadcasting morning shows figures will go on the holiday vacations. Last one of 2024. You didn't say of 2024. So they're coming back in 2025. They're not actually canceling all the morning shows. That's the best thing on Nicaraguan TV is the unbelievable number of morning shows. There are so many more morning shows in Nicaragua than there are anywhere else. Every single channel has a cool morning show. Which really makes you wonder what the economics of it is. But okay. So having, in 1994, a theater that epic in my house, and I could go rent movies for cheap all the time because the places that sold the stereo equipment and the theater equipment would rent laser discs to get you to make it make sense for you to have bought all this stuff. And so I could rent really cheaply, and I made friends there. So anytime they had a movie that I didn't have that was in pristine condition that they wanted to unload from their rental library, I'd buy it at half price. And so I ended up with just this insane collection plus easy rentals. And it made it that going to the movies meant coming to my house. And then we could have alcohol, and we could have really good food, and we could do popcorn, but we had sound and everything so much better than the movie theater, and we could pause it. And that was Laserdisc era. Once you had anamorphic DVDs, it was okay, maybe that's so much more convenient than the Laserdisc, and there's such a much bigger selection. Pretty amazing. And then once Blu-rays came out, and that, holy cow, it just... Going to the movie, I cannot remember being in a movie theater that was as good as my house basically since 1994. And when I was, 2003, when my wife and I bought our first house, we got married in 2003. We actually bought the house ahead of time. We were already engaged. We're hey, let's buy a house. Because the right house came up, and it was the right house. It was amazing. And I make that sound like it was a truly epic house. It was just the right house for us, right? It was a starter home. It was a ranch. It was attached on one side. It was in a little cul-de-sac in a small village in the middle of the Rust Belt. But it was a very comfy, new 2-bedroom, 2-bath, house with we managed to negotiate a deck. It had a garage. It was just, everything was comfy and just right for us. It really was the perfect starter home for us, and I'm so thankful for it and so sad we don't still have it. And it had a perfect basement, like a big plain basement that no one had done anything with. And so we took 1/3 of the basement, the farthest third that had all the windows, and we turned it into an office for me. And this is a massive office. It makes this space look ridiculously small. And I had enough to put in like huge desks for me and multiple workstations for other people. So like lots of people could come over and work from my office with full computer setups, lots of room to wheel around, room to set up whiteboards and things. And I had like ficus, like fake ficus going on and stuff throughout the office. So it was big and it was really right. But then the middle of the living room, of the basement, was 1/3 of the house, right? So these rooms in the basement are bigger than any rooms upstairs because it's just 3 of them. The whole middle, we put walls in, so it was the entire middle of the basement, and we painted the whole thing black. So it was, ceiling black, floor black, walls black. We put in a absolutely perfect condition 14-foot screen and a ceiling mounted projector, so you had the whole of the house, of the room, was open space. Nothing got in your way. There was no projector in the way. There was no TV in the way. The screen was the front wall. Projector was on the ceiling. And we did a full 1/3 of the way into the room from the front and 1/3 of the way into the room from the back were massive speakers and like extremely high-end speakers. Like these was quality. And we built in a 5-channel monoblock Marantz powered system. Like this stuff would just knock your socks off. It was so dedicated theater. It was absolutely amazing. And we hooked up video games to it. So we would play video games on 14-inch screens, right? Dreamcast with Veronica Chronicles. Like, oh my gosh, like scary as crap. What a great experience, right? But I don't go to the movie theater and get that kind of experience. And the whole thing was, if I was the only one home, I would put a chair in the dead center of the room and sit there. And it was my entire field of vision was this screen. And we had both Laserdisc and anamorphic DVD hooked up with just incredible sound, incredible visuals, and I would just sit there and I would enjoy cinema. I would pay attention to the shots and the color and every little detail, and that I just feel that's lost so much in other things in the way that it's made now. And so I've lost a lot of my passion for the movies, but I've also lost my passion for going to the movies. But here in Nicaragua, all that, boy, that was a long, but you guys haven't asked enough questions. So here in Nicaragua, I like going to the movies because the movie theater feels like the movie theater of my youth. It's cleaner and the seats are more comfy and it's air conditioned better, but essentially it is the same movie theaters that I used to go to when I was young and enjoyed the movies. It's not as high quality as what I could do at home. But here I don't have a home theater. When we build a house, I'm sure we will put one in. And it will be incredible and we will ship everything in specialty. But also, there's just something about going to the theater here. You go and there's a pizza place. You go to Hollywood Pizza before the movie and you eat your pizza. Then you get your big soda and your popcorn and that's it. There's no, it's just straight and goobers or whatever. And you go watch your movie and it's not super pretentious. It's practical and fun. Brent says, went to the movies with a group of friends I hadn't seen for a while. I was stoked to see them, and we went for the concessions. I offered to pick up the tab. Little did I know how much it would cost. Oh, yeah. Movies are painful. TJ says, now I have a Plex server with 70 terabytes of media. Okay, 70 is a lot. TJ, I have a Jellyfin, which I love compared to Plex. I used Plex, and let me tell you, once I went to Jellyfin, no. So much better than Plex, I think. I'm really happy with it. Now, I do not have 70 terabytes, although I have been strategizing how to get 70. I currently have 20, and I'm going to pick up 20 more capacity while I'm in the States coming up. So I'm going to be up to 40 terabytes, but 70, that's something. But yeah, having a Plex server or Jellyfin or whatever, that is the best. Even if you're buying everything on Blu-ray and DVD, that is the best way to use them. It is game changer as far as comfort and being able to, it's not just, I'm going to do a whole video on Jellyfin, actually, is my plan coming up, because I'm now using it as a way to organize my daughter's cinema education process. I want to really talk about that because I think it's really valuable, right? It's really cool because I'm able to say, here's a playlist of all the movies that I think we should have in our cinema studies. And I can simply tell Jellyfin, hey, boop, show them to me in chronological order that they released. And then it shows which ones we've watched. And we can just go through the list, and either we can knock them off the list and make them go away if we've watched them, or just mark that we've watched them, or whatever. And we can just go straight down the list, and they're all ready. So you just get to a movie and say, I want this movie, and you get a synopsis, and it gives you who's in the movie, and it allows you to, it makes all the connections that you wish Netflix would do, that you wish Prime would do, but they don't. So you look at the information from a movie, and then you say, oh, this actor, what do I know him from? And you click it, and every movie you have with that actor, and every TV show, boom, there they all are. And you can go down this, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever kind of thing. But as a cinema studies system, that actually really helps when you're like, okay, so Judy Garland did Wizard of Oz, but what else did she do? Boom. And suddenly it's like, oh, she had just done this movie, and she was about to do this movie, and a bunch of that kind of stuff really connects together. And then it's like, how did she know this person? And you can see, and it helps fill in some of that cinema stuff. Plus you can be like, who was the director of this? Who was the producer of this? And all that's in there. And of course you can go to IMDb and get that stuff with even more detail. And that's where this is pulling that from, right? It's going to Wikipedia, it's going to IMDb and all this stuff, and just taking, but here's their pictures, and here's the movie. So you're looking at this and you go, oh, so this is the character from this other movie. I'm just going to click on it, and bam, you're watching that movie. Or one of the things I really like is that it picks up collections. So you go into collection and say, I want to, I got a bunch of movies. I had no, and this happened to me. Several movies will show up as a collection. I'll be like, that's a collection? I didn't know that those were all the same movie. What the heck? Or the same, series. And a good one is the beach movies. Beach Blanket Bingo, Muscle Beach, Ski Party, Sergeant Deadhead, Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine, Back to the Beach, right? Movies spanning 50 years, maybe 30 years, with some really, The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini, right? Like all these movies that you'd be like, what? And then it turns out it's a 15-movie series that started with Beach Blanket Bingo or something, and then just went on from there. And that stuff's crazy. TJ, I really want to know what you like better about Plex, because I've used both, and I didn't find anything that I can remember about Plex that I preferred. It was good. It got me into the system. A friend of mine has a massive one, and he was using it, and I used to use his. And then when we moved down here, I'm like, I don't want to stream over the internet. I want it to come from inside the house for obvious reasons. And it's been really cool. What I really hope is when I move to a place where I have a lot of neighbors that I know, I plan on running cables everywhere and being like, we have like all the neighbors able to share stuff, which is cool because you can also make your own stuff. You can make like home movies and put them on there and share with everybody. Edwin says, TJ, just the fact that Netflix has released a lot of Christmas original films and specials of DreamWorks movies like Boss Baby and Bad Guys. No, I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Edwin says, starting this weekend, all national channels will broadcast TV shows. Oh, it's all Christmas stuff starting this weekend. I see. Edwin says, example, Channel 2 will broadcast a lot of movies, mostly Disney Channel, Channel 13, a lot of movies, no commercial breaks. Wow, interesting. I didn't know that they did that. Of course, I've not had TV basically the whole time that I've lived in Nicaragua, so I've actually never had TV, right? I've never had cable or anything. So, and when I was a kid, I didn't have cable. The part of the U.S. that I grew up in didn't allow us to get cable. The cable companies had a ban on our region, and so it was a backwater because we had no consumer protections, which was like the story of my childhood. No consumer protections, the Scott Allen Miller childhood story. But, you know, part of our farm was taken by eminent domain because a private company thought it would be handy, not because it was for the public good. Another company used eminent domain to take the front of our property to put in the cable television cables. They took the space down the street, not from us, and put up a tower by eminent domain to have cable, and then didn't allow anyone whose eminent domain they used to take their property to have that cable. We were forbidden to ever get cable TV. So to me, cable TV has always represented the rich elite, making it impossible for the poor to get access to the same media. That is what cable literally is. To this day, you mention cable to me, that's the feeling that comes through my mind. Oh, this is the rich excluding the poor from their media. But other than my parents having rabbit ears and being able to get over-the-air broadcasts, I've never had access to TV because once I became an adult, I've never owned an antenna, and I've never had cable. I've never paid for any of it. So, you know, I've seen it. Obviously, people have it. I watch it. But I have spent my entire adult life without TV. There you go. Brent says, pretty set on checking out Matagalpa this spring for my next trip. Here, any idea how the bus ride there is? Thinking of visiting on one of the hottest months to see how much the Highlands takes the edge off. Also going to Ometepe just because. Haha, pretty psyched up to get back down there. Awesome. Been going through a list of Can Palm d'Or winning films. So many great ones. Highly recommend Shoplifters from Japan. What a film. Awesome. I've not heard of that one. Oh, my glasses are like... They're not falling apart. There is a thin plastic film on the outside that gives the orange color to this portion, and it is deteriorating. Something terrible. I don't know if these will focus. And I'm just going to assume that they're out of focus, but of course they're out of focus for me because the camera, because I don't have my glasses on, right? So I don't know what their focus, what's going on. It just won't. Anyway, Valentina's here. Hola, Scott. Hey, Valentina. Any idea how the bus ride is to Matagalpa? That's what Brent asked. I have done the bus ride from Leon to Matagalpa, and it was fine. It's the chicken bus, and it was really long. Several hours, you have to do a change. So if I remember correctly, so this is coming from Leon. So this is nothing like Managua. Coming from Leon, we had to get in a chicken bus and go from the Leon bus station, which luckily there's only the one, and go to the Empalma San Isidro. Now, this is super confusing. I need to do a video on doing this specific bus route. I need to do a video on like every bus route in the country and show exactly how to do it because it's freaking confusing. You have to go to San Isidro, but don't be confused and actually go to San Isidro. There is a major bus terminal at San Isidro. That is not where you're going. You're going to the Empalma San Isidro. Yeah, they have the same name. So they're close to each other, but the Empalma is an Empalma, which is basically a T in the road. So one road comes into another. That's generally an Empalma. You can look this up. The big accident that I showed on the shorts this last week, that was the Empalma Itzapa, closer here to Leon. So that one and San Isidro are really famous ones around the country. And so that's... so you have to get off. So the bus will pull over at Empalma San Isidro, and you get off on the corner with no information. It turns out if you go south on the road, it's not very far. On the side that you already are, which is the right-hand side headed south, there's a little bus stop there. Just walk to that bus stop and wait. The bus to Matagalpa is going to come and get you there. There's no sign or instructions or information anywhere. That is just what you have to know, and you have to know that that is the Empalma San Isidro, and that you have to get off there and not at the... Like, there's so many, like, almost details that are... It's just very confusing. But once you know to do that, it's just a chicken bus and for a few hours. And then it drops you right in Matagalpa. It's fine. But it is tricky if you don't know to do that. I did that with a Nicaraguan, and they couldn't figure out what to do. Right? So... yeah, a lot of these times it's like, well, I did it with Marcella, and it's amazing how often we say, oh, this is, we're gringos, we're extranjeros, we're immigrants. We don't know these things. We're so easily confused. We're missing the subtle clues. And then you travel with Nicaraguans and go places, and they're just like, how is anyone supposed to do this? And they're lost and wandering around, and it takes them forever to get anywhere. And you're like, oh, I feel vindicated. This is confusing, and there is no information. Chris says, Scott, I got Wi-Fi from AT&T. Is it actually Wi-Fi? 90 by 300, 8 by 30 upload. What are the slashes? Why? There should only be one number for download and one number for upload. Is that the slowest to the fastest that you've gotten in each one? And then your latency is 30 to 65 per millisecond, $47 a month. Would an Ethernet cable help improve any of those? Okay, so there's got to be some confusion here. So when you say you get Wi-Fi from AT&T, normally the assumption that means that they have a tower and you put up a tower at your house and they beamed over your internet by Wi-Fi. And that may sound crazy, but as someone who works with companies all over the US, I have customers all over the place that do this. I also have people that do this all over Nicaragua because that's how you get into remote areas. And we have people on this show who do that here. And I have owned systems like that here. So that's a real thing. So I'm trying to figure out if that's what you mean, that you're getting actually getting Wi-Fi from AT&T, or do you just have internet from AT&T over like fiber or cable, and then you have Wi-Fi in your house? Those are very different things. Brent says, so first time going on a bus route is all about figuring it out. After that first time, you're probably good. Yeah. And that's why it's the way that it is because almost no Nicaraguans do a route once. Everyone is going to visit family or going to work, and it's a thing that they do, maybe not all the time, but maybe once. So I had a housekeeper here who had family in El Sauce, which is a small village really far away, and Nicaraguans don't know how to read maps, like pretty much across the board. They don't have access to them. They have no idea that you would look at a map, like the whole idea is foreign. So they would learn this one bus route. Okay, go to this station, look for a bus. In this particular case, it probably actually says Sauce, but it may say Malpaisillo, and then you go to Malpaisillo and realize that there's a bus you change to that you take to Sauce. How do you figure it out the first time? I have no idea. Generally, you can go to the bus terminal and you start asking the bus guys, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, you do this and this and that, because they know, right? But that's what you're dependent on. And that's how we got to Matagalpa, but they couldn't give us enough information to make it clear that we had to walk somewhere. And none of the people we were with knew either, right? So you think, and you kind of, base your decisions around this. Well, certainly Matagalpa is a huge city. Leon to Matagalpa must be a decent run. So there's definitely going to be, 5 to 10 people that got to be doing the same thing, if not 50. Right? So we did it, and it was like 5 to 10 people, every one of which got off and went, and stood at the corner. And then the bus just blows by and leaves us, and then way down the road, we see it stop at a bus stop. So we're like, crap. So we all go down there, wait at the bus stop, and eventually the next bus got us. But that was the whole process, right? Not one person, and I was there was no single person who was just like an isolated expat or foreigner or whatever that was potentially lost. I was the only one I'm the only one who had any excuse to not know how to do it, and I wasn't on my own, and every single person talking to each other couldn't come up with, maybe we go down there. There was that little indication as that being the thing to do. So yeah, that first time you really have to get through this barrier of learning how to do things. And then most things are pretty easy, but yeah, it can be pretty intimidating, especially if you're on a bus on your own. But you're never gonna die out there, right? But it can be a bit much, and if you're on a tight schedule, then it's really unpleasant. Then you're really worried. in general, Chris, depending on what you're doing, almost always will Ethernet cable help, right? Wi-Fi has gotten really good, but no matter what, Wi-Fi always adds a tiny bit of latency and fluctuations that may negatively impact you, right? So for me, I wire everything with rare exception. So almost everything I own could be wireless, right? My laptop, my desktop could be wireless. I don't know. I've got things around here, right? All these different things. So obviously my phone is wireless. But even like my TVs, I try to run Ethernet into those rooms to plug in the TVs, because there's a couple thoughts. The first is Wi-Fi always is slower, right? Wi-Fi has to take Ethernet, and even if you don't see it, there's Ethernet, right? It could be inside your box, but it's in there. It's going to take Ethernet, so you have whatever latency Ethernet was going to have, whatever overhead, and then it converts it to Wi-Fi. So there's a conversion process. It's not heavy, it doesn't take much, but it has to happen. So that's a negative. And then that Wi-Fi has to broadcast. And that broadcast has all this interference and bouncing and fungible stuff. And so all the equipment that talks on that has to negotiate and figure out how to communicate with the base station. That takes time. And it has to change frequencies and constantly adjust things. That takes time. And at times there's straight up interference. That's obviously problematic. And there's all these things that are negatives. And that's all when you have one device and then just noise from the universe. But the moment someone else has an access point somewhere nearby, the second you put another device on that Wi-Fi, now you have all that overhead of Wi-Fi, plus you have the overhead of other devices talking at the same time on the same frequencies, more or less, and needing to do all those things in the complication of doing it in a group. So the more devices that connect to Wi-Fi, the worse Wi-Fi gets. Now in the old days, 3-4 devices on your Wi-Fi and it started falling apart. It would be like, wow, I can't even use this. Today, the technology has gotten crazy good, and while your Ethernet might be able to support 10,000 people without you noticing, your Wi-Fi might support 100, 200 people without you really noticing. But it is worth noting that when you talk about the speed of Wi-Fi, if you say like, this Wi-Fi goes 300 megabits per second, that's really fast. And you talk about your Ethernet that goes 1,000 megabits per second, you say, well, okay, yeah, the Ethernet clearly could go faster, but how many things are sending more than 300? You say, well, yeah, no, that's valid, right? You never need to send 300, so that's not going to be a problem. But then when you say, I'm going to put 10 devices on Ethernet, and you say, okay, are those 10 sharing that 1,000? No. Each one has its own 1,000. Oh, so we actually have 10,000 megabits per second bandwidth with these 10 connections on Ethernet. Yes, 10,000 megabits. Wow, well, that sounds like a lot, and it is. So let's do the same thing with Wi-Fi. You got 10 devices, you connect them to that Wi-Fi. Does it get 10 times the speed? No, it has 300 megabits, and every device that connects to that Wi-Fi and everything that seems like a device connecting to that Wi-Fi, which could include like your microwave spewing extra signal, all have to share the 300 megabits. So they each get 30, assuming there's 10, except the more times you split it, there's overhead that keeps getting bigger and bigger. So if you had 300 and you split it in half, you might get 149 and 149. But if you split it 3 ways, you might get 98, 98, 98. And if it's split 10 ways, right, you might be getting 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. So the total speed actually reduces with every additional device you add. The total gets smaller. It's just a bad scene. So we want to avoid wireless as much as you can, but it's super convenient. And if you got an iPad, a phone, obviously you have to use Wi-Fi, and it'll be fine, right? Most Wi-Fi today is built for crazy fast speeds, so that when they split it up, you really don't notice too much. And typically one device uses it, and you're not using another device, so they're not contending all that much. But if you're looking for the absolute fastest speed, it has no way to compete. There's a lot of complications that go on with Wi-Fi. Ethernet is just way simpler. Plus, every one of those Wi-Fi connections needs to have encryption and a password process. All of that is overhead that slows things down. Ethernet doesn't need those things under normal conditions, and so just screams right along. So Wi-Fi is just the last connection. So when you're using this terminology, Chris, never say Wi-Fi from AT&T. The Wi-Fi is not from AT&T. It's your Wi-Fi that you're providing inside the house. AT&T provides the internet to your house. The Ethernet or the Wi-Fi inside the house is what you provide to yourself. So the terminology changes whether it's Wi-Fi like you use with your phone in your living room, or if it's the Wi-Fi that connects from 20 miles away for AT&T to get to you in the jungle. So those speed variations are extremely high. It's unlikely that they're coming from your Wi-Fi unless you've got Wi-Fi problems inside the house, but it could be. So Ethernet will help you narrow that down and determine if, that gets a lot better, or if it stays essentially the same. If you really are getting those limitations from AT&T, then moving off of Wi-Fi is unlikely to fix that, because modern Wi-Fi is so fast that those speeds are a tiny fraction of it. So probably wouldn't be a thing. That latency is crazy high, though. When I lived in Texas 10 years ago, my latency was 2, not 65. 65 is more than I normally get here back to the United States, right? Not my speed within country. That obviously would be amazing. Yeah, right now my latency to the United States is 43 and yours was 30 to 65. The 30 isn't terrible. The 65 is truly atrocious, and means that your AT&T is functioning inside the United States as if you're in a third world country connecting over an international relay. That and not well, right? Like, that's rough. Even out in the jungle here in Rio Blanco, we're getting better than that. So that's wacky. Dale says, "Hey Scott, and all better late than never, I've been told." Well, we were actually quite late as well. Edwin says, "Scott, what you miss of Nicaraguan culture is Christmas and New Year's Eve that is both in the 24th and 31st at 12 a.m. All Nicaraguans nationwide blow the fireworks." Yeah, I'm aware. I've been here twice for it. That's one thing I can live without. And unfortunately, my dogs are stuck here, so they are going to be. They're going to be very sad. Edwin says, "You still remember the famous last sunset of the 20th century that has a video footage of New York City lower Manhattan skyline when the sun goes down for the last time in the 20th century?" I actually don't remember that. I don't know that I've ever seen that video, but I do have a video of the sunrise over Manhattan from my apartment. I'm going to see if I can track that down. I don't know what channel it's on. Let's see. To spell it right to have any hope. There it is. There it is. Can I put it here? I can. That is my video of the sunrise over Manhattan from my apartment window. Whew. Oh my gosh. 4.2 thousand views 16 years ago. And that was a beautiful view that we used to have from there. And 3 years after I posted it, some random person just posted fart. And okay, so this is YouTube over the years, right? So this is on my other channel, and 4,200 views. Like, this is pretty good. So at 12 years ago, someone posted, "That was not a bird, that was Blackjack and Percy." I have no idea what that's in reference to. I don't know what bird they're talking about. I have no idea what Blackjack and Percy are. This is the most random comment from just a person with a normal name. But then 9 years ago, someone called Wet Poopy posted almost unreal a tour, great sousy sunrat, I mean sunrise. Then 13 years ago, someone called Say F posted fart with a bunch of exclamation points. And then 14 years ago, 5 years before their last one, the same Wet Poopy posted, whoever lives in that area is lucky to see the shadow-like building over the sunrise of the Manhattan skyline. I just can't be so lucky. What? So the random fart, I don't really get, but okay. This kind of weird comment from Wet Poopy 14 years ago, but that Wet Poopy came back 5 years later to post total gibberish. Like, what? What? There's not a single comment on here that makes sense. Not one person has ever, and this is 4,200 views. There's no need to comment. Like, pretty view? What do you want me, what are you going to say? But 4,200 views, and the only comments are 4 comments of abject gibberish. Edwin says, an inappropriate comment in a very old video. Kids these days in YouTube. The thing is that these comments are ancient. The most recent one is 9 years ago. They're 9, 12, 13, and 14. So once every 4 years. It is. There's 16 years. So once every 4 years, a person pops in and posts total gibberish. XL says, hey, Scott, came late to the live. Well, glad that you are here. It's we actually started really late, so it's been kind of a different day. I'm going to check out my oldest videos from the show. Okay, so this one, you can't leave the live stream. You just have to watch this somewhere on the side. This is my dog Oreo playing with a ball 18 years ago. That's when I started the channel, 18 years ago. Oh, Chris says, sorry, the numbers came from the pamphlet from AT&T. I'll receive the internet tomorrow. Oh, you haven't tested it. Okay, so wait, what type of internet is this? AT&T, what service? Because I've never seen any service with those numbers. Unless, the way that you said Wi-Fi from AT&T, this may actually be Wi-Fi. You may actually be getting Wi-Fi service. Here's the video of me. Oh! Hold on. I'm going to watch this video in the background. I may have found the house that I was talking about. But yeah, it's really weird for a pamphlet to mention ranges of numbers unless it is wireless and not a wired service. No cable, no fiber, actual Wi-Fi. Then it would have wacky numbers like that. Definitely not great numbers. The price is not bad, $47 a month. That seems reasonable. I wouldn't say that service is any better than what you could get for $35 here in Nicaragua, but you know. My gosh, in my memory, my house in Geneseo, and I'm going to be right at this house in 2 weeks. Maybe I'll go and make a little video of it that's sharp or something. But this video is so shaky and so blurry because it was taken with, I think, a handy cam with a tape in it. TJ says, if it's not hardline, I'd pass unless it's the only option. Yeah, absolutely. Wireless internet is always rough unless you just have no other option. Edwin says, is that a New Zealand at 6 a.m. on December 31st here in Nicaragua was the first ever country to receive the New Year? Is that in New Zealand? The last territory that receives the New Year is Alaska. That could be true. Seems hard to believe that New Zealand is the first, but... Where is the New Year celebrated first? According to my research, the first places are Samoa and Kiribati. It specifically says on CNN Travel that they beat out New Zealand and other Pacific islands such as the Marshall Islands because they are east of them. If you guys want to see the house I was talking about earlier... Christmas Island does not count because it's not, so the reason, Don Timoteo, that they don't consider Christmas Island is because a couple reasons. One is that it's part of Australia, so it's not its own place. It would be like saying the United States doesn't get it until a certain time, then say, well, on Long Island, but Long Island's just part of New York. It's just, but also Christmas Island is located west of Australia, just south of Jakarta on Java in Indonesia. So physically it's in Indonesia, but it's considered part of Australia. So it's actually, it doesn't get New Year's until after all Pacific Ocean islands, New Zealand, Australia, Papua New Guinea, the Philippines, Indonesia, which includes Bali, Brunei, is that right? China, Japan, the Koreas, Eastern Russia. Christmas Island is in line with Malaysia and Indonesia and Central, Mongolia, like that area. Dale says, yeah, there's a huge bulge in the date line between Hawaii and New Zealand. Yeah, that's how the others end up getting it. We know the International Continental Land. Well, the cricket on the background. Last week it was the bird. It is a cricket. It's true. It's really loud here. That's hilarious. AT&T Internet Air. Oh gosh. Well, that definitely isn't wired. So AT&T is known for how bad they are when they're wired. Okay, so that, yeah. TJ was correct. That is neither Wi-Fi nor wired. That is just 5G. Literally, it's just a cell phone connection that is goes to a base at your house. So it is one step worse than the silly Wi-Fi tower thing that I was telling you about. Just a cell phone. Basically, it's essentially a stable hotspot that you plug in so you don't have to worry about a battery discharging. So it gets wild amounts of speed variation depending on how many people are making calls and doing downloads or whatever. And yeah, that's why it's got that huge and it's got the latency. And TJ said this. It's probably LTE. Of course, in the United States, the big companies have pushed so that they can call LTE 5G to make it seem like they have this amazing 5G service, but the latency and speed numbers show you that it can't be 5G. 5G by definition, I think, has to be faster than that, or lower latency than that. So that is essentially guaranteed to be old 15-year-old LTE technology, which, I mean, it's no different than what I get in Nicaragua, but I'm getting those speeds for, $3. So that's, I think $47 for cell phone service feels like a lot. It depends what you do, right? If you're just watching some Netflix, like, it's going to work fine, I'm sure. But it's going to feel like the internet 20 years ago. Edwin says, we're just 12 days away from 2025 Scott in Eastern Time. CST adds about 1 more hour. I will be for New Year's. No, I'll be in Texas for New Year's, so I'll be the same. I'll be in New York after New Year's. What time is it here? It is 11. Guys are mostly quiet. Axel says, loves those sounds in Nicaragua. It is. There's always a little something going on. It's actually quite quiet tonight. It's just that the window's really thin and my microphone's really good. TJ says, if you get that, make sure you get a device that can have external antenna and put something up outside. It's your service for a dramatically be better. Didn't quite follow what the sentence was supposed to be, but the sentiment comes through. Edwin says, so no New York City Times Square ball drop on site for you. No, Edwin, New York for me is upstate, so in the Buffalo area. I go back home. New York City for New Year's, not my thing. Not as an upstate New Yorker, we kind of ignore New York City. I was talking about this. I think it was on a video this week that I was like, I think it was one like today. People talking about Nicaragua and treating it as like one thing. Like someone asked me, hey, do you know like a really like local service, right? Like a person who can stop by. It'd be like looking for a local maid, right? Can you recommend or tell me how do I find a local maid? And then asking about a city hours away from where I am, and it's like, and it's because you've used one. And I'm like, in a different city, in a different departamento, like. Imagine if you were asking in the United States, like, oh, I have a friend in, Nevada who hired someone to clean their house, and I live in Virginia. Can I get their number? Maybe they'll clean my house. Like, it's a country. Like things are really far apart. You have to look for someone from where you are. New York City might as well be a different part of the world as far as we were concerned. Am I able to do the live from the beach? Sounds of the wave would be nice. So, and A number 1 says smooth live stream tonight. Yeah, so far we're on. I'm showing 2 hours 20 minutes according to that. Oh yeah, they're the same. And actually, I never noticed this. My on-air timer over here shows me what my delay is. So I'm going to wave my hand at 2, 20, and 30 seconds, which is now. So I'm waving my hand, and I'm going to see if my delay is properly measured on the time on the monitor, and it is not. So what I did at 30 seconds on the monitor, the camera monitor, is very much delayed on the live stream, even though they're supposed to be in lockstep as far as the timestamp. That's way off. Oh, way off. I just showed the phone. Holy cow. How does that timestamp work? How are they so far off from each other? That's super weird. Now I have to watch to see. This is how long the delay is. But I realize that I have 2 timers going, so it means I have a way to check things and see what it is. Holy cow. The delay must be several minutes, but the timestamps are almost identical. I don't know. I'm baffled as to how that is not working by such a dramatic amount. But anyway, yeah, the live stream has been rock solid, other than that weirdness, all night. TJ says, I said your service will be dramatically better. I used the voice to text, and it failed. They have both wireless and wired service. Oh, Axel said, can I do a live stream from the beach? Sound of the waves would be nice. So the problem with doing it from the beach is a bunch of things. One is that getting really good connections out there is a huge pain. So part of doing all this is I have a lot of equipment to do this. And so if I wanted to do this from the beach, I'd have to take that equipment to the beach, which I can do. And then to connect it all up, I've got to run cables all over the place, or else all of my stuff is like in the kitchens, right? So we could do it from the kitchen or from the bar. I could do it, but it would be tough. And then the next problem is that the cameras, it's a lot of salt in the air, so it's really damaging to the cameras and the equipment. So that's difficult, and I need at least one monitor for this live stream, which I can make do with a laptop, and then I need something to monitor the cameras. It's a lot of stuff that I'd have to take out to the beach and subject to the salt air and try to protect. And then the sound of the waves, because I was just out there having conversations. Those waves are loud. If you can hear the crickets, the waves are louder than my voice. So it may actually make it like impossible to do. Plus I'd have to take out lights and everything. So it would be really challenging to do in the way we do this show. We could do something live from the beach. And I've done like taking my phone out and filming live at many times from the beach. So there's times that you get to see it, but doing this kind of live show from the beach would be extraordinarily difficult and potentially very damaging to the equipment, which I kind of depend on not wearing out super fast because all of it is quite expensive. Dale says, is the internet you get from Tigo and Claro just cell-based like AT&T Air above, or does it come in on a cable? So Claro offers cable and fiber for sure, and you could get Wi-Fi, at least in the past. Tigo, I have had Wi-Fi and does cable, but I don't think does fiber. As far as I know, neither of them does cell-based. Like, cell-based is yet again a bizarre American throwback to weird old-timey technology. If we're going to do it here, it's going to be Wi-Fi based, and Wi-Fi is stabler and faster than fixed LTE. So yeah, but it does exist. There are really remote places here in Nicaragua, and you can end up getting Wi-Fi based service if you're not careful. But I've not heard. So I had it maybe 2016, 2017 up in Matagalpa from Tigo, and Tigo could never get it working. So I only kind of had it. TJ says they do have cell-based Claro. I have never seen that. I'm looking at internet options from Tigo. Axel says that, by the way, have you been able to see the new buses that they've bought? I have not actually seen the new buses. I've seen the recent buses, but not the new ones. Tigo says all their websites show very little of what they offer. They make it look like you can get 100 meg and 200 meg internet, and that's it. And they don't say what your connection is. So you're like, what is this? And you'll never know. But Tigo is kind of crap, so I would not get them for home. They were super unprofessional when I dealt with them. Oh, Tigo has fiber now too. I wonder if they're... Oh, TJ says he looked at a house with cell-based Claro. Was it really cell-based, TJ? Did someone just say that, or did you actually see something? Because people might just say that. Because I know there... Well, at least with Tigo, I know that there was Wi-Fi based. And it's really Wi-Fi. Like, you can see the devices. I'm looking at Claro's websites, but all these websites are completely useless. So it's pretty hard to figure out what they have. Oh, hold on. What is this? Okay, so Claro has... so if you go to Claro's page here, I'll pop it up. Edwin says, good night, Scott. I got to take a sleep. Take care of your holidays, family, and friends in Texas. See you in 2025. I'm hoping to do a live stream still yet in 2024 from Texas, but we'll see. No promises. Okay. So the wireless speeds from Claro are pretty awful, with the worst one being 120 by 3. And the best one listed being 350 by 5. Yeah, wow. However, they are cheap, with the cheapest one being $16, and the one that you would actually want, the 250 by 5, the middle one, being $22, because you get the 5 up, which is what you need, and the 250 down doesn't really matter. You can't use it because the 5 up is too little to use that down. So at least it's really cheap at $22, but it's not good. Dale says you should become the Minister of IT for Nicaragua. Yes, I should. Yes, I should. No question there. Yeah. The reality is I have been the Minister of IT equivalent for much larger organizations. It would actually be relatively easy. And I know and yell at that counterpart in another country. I have busted those people for faking network stuff in front of the government because they didn't listen to me. Not here, other countries, but actually do that stuff. TJ says, I'd help with that. Unfortunately, being Americans, there's no way for us to do that kind of work here. But it would be cool. And I would do it if they were like, hey, would you help out with this? I'd be like, yeah, that'd be cool. I would love to leapfrog other places and be like, let's stop with like copying and like trying to do what other countries do. Let's just do it better, right? Like let's jump forward, modernize, take anything that's really old. Like it's so easy to go around the country and be like, that could be improved, that could be improved, and with cost savings, right? Instead of more expensive, and like that's easy, spend more. No, like spend less, right? Get more, spend less. Let's do that. But it's hard to talk people into that because everybody's got their job because they're, buying something and no one wants to. Don says, Claro has cell-based, but most is Wi-Fi. Oh, they do both. Okay. That makes sense. Dale says, yeah, I saw your LinkedIn. You'd be on. Oh, you looked me up. Some of my best stuff isn't actually on the LinkedIn. There's a lot of hidden behind things that are misleading, like, oh, I worked at this place, but what did I do at that place that I can't really say on representing governments and stuff, though. That's pretty cool. And a lot of the cool stuff I do now, man, I haven't updated LinkedIn in years. TJ says, nope, I'd be like Oprah, you get fiber, everybody gets fiber. That is definitely the thing to do. And they're doing that, right? Like the amount of fiber now compared to a few years ago, like holy cow, it's rolling out fast. It really is rapidly changing, and the commitment to fiber is really good. Oh shoot, I have a list of videos to link somewhere, but I don't know where it is now. Don's up. I have too many apps on my computer. I often can't find the ones that I need. Ah. Oh, that's not useful. I need to have canned responses for so many posts that go online, but I don't seem to have them. What sort of IT solutions would like for government? I'm a city worker in Oregon. Our IT is long in the tooth. What sort of IT solutions would it be like for government? So I do everything for governments, everything from overseeing central bank trading platforms, currency, security automation, systems for controlling everything, right? Military systems, arms control, boat registries, national lottos, you name it, and it's stuff that I actively do, building national infrastructures for healthcare and data delivery, security, like I come from an actual IT background, like I do everything IT, so like literally every single thing that a government could be involved in, those are the kinds of things. But governments need an awful lot that they don't really put thought into in a lot of cases, right? They don't think about, and you can tell this, right? Have you ever seen a government official using Windows, right? The number of failures that have to happen. It should be that if your government deployed a Windows machine, someone should be arrested, right? That's guaranteed corruption. Someone was paid off to sell out your government and your taxpayers. Right, that machine is not secure. It is not easy to maintain. It doesn't do a good job. Like, I cannot fathom how someone could make a plausible excuse for having deployed a Windows machine. Yet, you'll go into places and not only will they do it, they'll lie through their teeth to come up with excuses as to why, and they'll blame other people. And it's true, right? Someone will have the excuse, well, I was told I had to. And that person will say, well, I was told this. And everyone has an excuse because no one's doing the job of IT. Everyone's just collecting a paycheck and throwing the public under the bus, right? And they have to, because what else do you do? And in places like the US, where most of those offices are just there to create more jobs, things like, we can make this more efficient, don't go over well. We can save taxpayer dollars. Oh my gosh, no, that would lower budgets. We can't go down a path of reducing, right? We have to find ways to take the money that we've taken and disperse it to what turns out to normally be friends and family. And so IT is, especially in like the US, will never get smaller because it is the main path for funneling in this case, taxpayer dollars into the hands of people. Right. Mondotazo says you need to spend all the money, which is just another way in the taxpayer world of saying theft. Right? If you have to spend the money, that means you tax them for the purpose of paying off vendors. Right? It's quite literally taking from the public by force to benefit a private industry vendor. They're not providing a service. they're actually just taking a payoff. And so it's, in every sense of the word, money laundering, right? Now it's government money laundering, so there's probably some loophole in a law that says the government, when it steals money and hides it in that way, that it's not laundering, but it is the definition of money laundering, should meet it, right? Actually, what is the definition? But it's a way to, right. The act of engaging in transactions designed to obscure the origin of money that has been obtained illegally or concealing the source of illegally gotten money. So that is exactly what's happening, right? Money through taxation that wouldn't be legal if they knew that it was being taxed and just given to a friend or whatever. They pass it through quite often IT in government departments and then hand it over to a friend. And going through IT generally becomes a quagmire of nobody at any layer, especially not an auditor, can even begin to understand what it is. And so it's a way of basically hiding that or stopping taxpayers from having the ability to audit where their money has gone, right? And then you have private companies with loads of money doing nothing, and it's like, how did they get rich? Oh, someone needed to unload extra money, and so they were the ones who got the favors, and then they bought them, trips to the golf course or whatever. But there's, cities that actually care. IT. So one of the things is, like IT being long in the tooth, computers getting old, like a lot of that stuff costs money, even in a government context. It's amazing. You go around and you're like, money's being wasted everywhere for the purpose of burning the money. Why not make the IT actually work well? That would cost less and give you more money to burn, right? Like, if that's really what you wanted to do. Well, at least doing a better job for the people. It's like I had to be on the State of Texas website for something today, and nothing worked. The thing looked ridiculous. It couldn't have taken more than 10 minutes to make. Like, this is the thing. Every single Texan has to use this site. And I understand I don't want my tax money going to a $1 million website revamp just to make it look professional because I'm embarrassed by my state. But I would not mind if $30 to even $200 of my taxpayer dollars went into this. And the reality is that's all it would take is $200 in a state of whatever, 25 million people that all have to use this website. And for even less money than that, we could make it actually work. Like, for real, you could make that website in definitely under an hour. And that's the level of, like, at some point, I would just like professionals involved, right? Dale says, how's the anti-littering campaign coming along? Notice any decrease yet? So I haven't been out in enough places to notice it. I have had people tell me that they've noticed a decrease. TJ says, I would put a direct link to the West Coast to the U.S. Yeah, that would be super expensive because of the distance, and you got to go but yeah, that would help so much. Or connect at least to Mexico. Because we don't have a connection to Mexico. Why don't we have a connection to El Salvador and Honduras and Costa Rica? We should have some connections. Doge for the win. Then all the money makes this way back to the politician. Right, exactly. Yep. I'm concerned about all the VMware using governments. Yeah, VMware, that's another example. There is no excuse for deploying VMware. 100% corruption. Broadcom hiked the price. Even when it's free, it's no good. Right? It's the worst product on the market. Now, here's the thing. Now Broadcom wants to transition to a KVM base. Well, of course, KVM is the only sensible option. I've been publishing stuff on that for years. The VMware product line is utter garbage. It is flaky and slow and fragile, and it got its butt kicked on a technical level, right? It was ridiculously bad. And I worked with VMware, and this is one of my famous stories, when they were just trying to get it out, 2006, maybe 2007. I had to take classes with their engineering, and their engineering came in to teach us, and I ended up teaching them how their product worked on the first time that I saw it. The amount that VMware understood their own product, approached zero. They were unable to support and use it, and that's pretty scary. Now that was a long time ago, but this is a product being made by people who fundamentally didn't even understand their own product. And it's like, are you what? So, yeah, completely ridiculous. Now the thing is, why would you pay someone for KVM? There's nothing to need support for. Just deploy KVM and win, right? And then if you want support, just hire professionals. But yeah, VMware is seriously, seriously bad. That is one of those, what we call a marker technology. If you see that, you know that there is something nefarious going on. There isn't a potential viable reason why VMware would ever have, and this is important, right? There is no viable space where VMware could have been discussed, bringing it up as an option, or allowing any salesperson that would recommend it to the table is already a major problem, because it represents a violation of basic security. Anybody who would say, you know what, VMware could be okay, if you're a government, you have a requirement to do something about that, right? You have someone subterfuging the government. And yet, find me a government agency in the US that didn't just say, yeah, of course, we'll let these known social engineers come in and run roughshod over the public, right? They just open the doors to it. Some people actually argue for it, right? Which, quite honestly, if I actually made the rules, that would be a go-to-jail thing. I truly believe that level of stealing from the American public, that level of complete and utter disregard for the taxpayers, that's what jail's for, right? I mean, violent crimes are worse, but this is a level of disrespect. Like, we're not just going to steal from you. We're also going to make everything expensive and crappy in a way that we're not even going to pretend had a reason. Why? I can hear something eating something in the roof. Yeah, and VMware costs so much, and KVM, which is so much better, has been free always. I actually had a customer call us and say they wanted to move to Hyper-V. Dear Lord. And then listed all these reasons they wanted to go to Hyper-V. Literally every single reason was why they were on KVM. Like, they described exactly why they should never consider Hyper-V. And then their answer was, so I think we're going to Hyper-V. And you're like, you just argued against it. You wanted support, it doesn't come with support. You want stable, it doesn't come with stable. You want features, it doesn't have the features. It was insane. Working in IT is one of the most frustrating things ever, because so many organizations are just willing to ignore, like any other industry. If you were like, oh yeah, I hired this accountant, but they're just stealing all the money. That's okay because they're the accountant. I don't understand finances, so we'll just let them steal the money. No one says that, right? Sometimes people are like, I can't tell what's going on. Well, sure, but once you know they're stealing the money, you don't go, I'm okay with that, right? But in IT, once people know people are stealing, they're like, that's cool. It is so hard to do legitimate IT and have a company even care if you protect from straight up theft. Oh, you saved us from theft, but we really liked the guy stealing from us. He was so personable. Like, that's how American businesses work. It's so frustrating. Anyway, you guys got very quiet. Where did everybody go? Here is my short list of hypervisors 2018. I cannot believe how old that is. "9 months away," Dale says. Very nice. Wow, I haven't done a virtualization shortlist since 2018. My gosh, I've been so busy, the things that I miss. All right, it is 11:30. You guys are pretty quiet. I think we're going to call it a night. I've got some stuff I got to do. I got to get some sleep. It is a very busy week. Thanks, everyone, for joining. And, oh, of course, right as anytime we're just about to go, a bunch of people join the stream. We just got like 3 more people on the stream, but we've been going. I mean, we haven't done a ton. We're just coming up on 3 hours. Plus, we did the time earlier, so we're over 3 hours for sure. But it's a short night. But glad we were able to get it done, and not one blip the entire night. So that is awesome. I'm very excited about that. We have a path towards solutions. And all right, I will see all of you guys